I want to go too. The moment Khloe Jiang heard Leo was going to Denver, she wrapped herself around him like a python, half draped over his body as he sat on the sofa. She refused to let go. Please? Pretty please, she whined, jiggling his arm. Take me with you. I want to see the mountains. And go to some of those cool craft breweries. Leo was trying to watch TV. Khloe, barefoot, was perched on the sofa cushions, shaking his arm relentlessly. Sophia Sue walked in with 2 glasses of water, adding her own 2 cents. And if you're going all the way to Denver, you have to get some real bison steak, right? By the sound of it, she was planning on crashing the party too. Nope, not happening, Leo said, his tone final. I'm going for business, not for a vacation. Oh, Sophia arched an eyebrow, her expression turning sly. You're not, by any chance, taking some other girl for a little private getaway, are you? She tapped her chin, pretending to ponder the possibility. Khloe's eyes narrowed, suddenly on high alert. Exactly. Are you trying to have a romantic weekend with someone else? She repeated the destination, Denver. Then it clicked. Her voice shot up. Wait, Yvonne Yuan is from Denver. Leo's hand, holding his water glass, froze for a fraction of a second. The woman's 6th sense was terrifyingly accurate. Neither Sophia nor Khloe said another word. They just stared at him. Ahem. Leo cleared his throat. Well, I'm meeting with Yvonne's brother about something. It's business. Serious business. He had no idea why he felt the need to tack on that last part so forcefully. So, it is Yvonne, Khloe said, her voice hollow. Her expression was a complicated mix of emotions. Even the ever-unflappable Sophia gave Leo a long, searching look. Is something wrong? Is she in trouble? The moment Leo confirmed it was related to Yvonne, Sophia believed his claim about it being serious business. A flicker of genuine concern crossed her face. To go that far to handle something, it had to be a big deal. There was some trouble in the futures market before the holidays. I'm just meeting her brother to get some details, Leo explained. He wasn't trying to hide it from them, but he had no intention of mentioning that it was all connected to Richard Chien. That was for Khloe's sake. Oh, Sophia said softly. Khloe glanced at her, confused. As it happened, Sophia was looking right back at her. She blinked, a silent message passing between them. Realization dawned on Khloe's face. She fought back a smile, but with Leo right there, she had to stifle it. The plan was simple. Leo would go do his business, and she and Sophia would go have their fun. Everybody wins. Of course, Leo had noticed their silent, telepathic conversation the moment it started. He didn't try to stop them. It was the weekend, after all. A trip together wouldn't be the worst thing. After a bit more chatting, Leo stretched. All right, let's get to bed early. He gave Khloe a gentle pat on the butt, a signal for her to finally uncoil herself from him. Saturday morning, Leo threw his suitcase in the car and made a special trip to the University of Oregon campus to pick up Yvonne. She was already waiting for him when he pulled up. After he parked, she instinctively reached for the passenger side door, but it was locked. Leo rolled down the window and pointed to the laminated sign taped to the dashboard, reserved for the idiot. Yvonne let out a long-suffering sigh and shot him a withering glare before walking around to the back. This time, the door opened. You really don't leave any room for error, do you, Leo? He wasn't sure if he was imagining it, but he could have sworn he detected a hint of resentment in her tone. He brushed it off with a joke. I only don't make mistakes because the temptation isn't strong enough. Oh, now Yvonne seemed interested. She propped her head on her hand, studying his profile, and what exactly would be enough temptation. Leo mulled it over. Just as Yvonne expected some profound insight, he sighed dramatically. All right, I admit it. I haven't encountered it yet. Yvonne's question made him realize something. Since his rebirth, his standards for pretty much everything had skyrocketed. Ordinary temptations just didn't do it for him anymore. Thinking about it that way, life was starting to feel a little bland, boring even. Maybe it was time to start planning that trip around the world with his 2 girls. Who knows? Maybe they'd leave as a party of 3 and come back as a party of 5. Or 6. 7 wasn't out of the question. Leo, what are you thinking about? You have the creepiest smile on your face. Even Yvonne, in the back seat, was disturbed by the look on his face. That was one thought he definitely wasn't sharing. He adopted a serious tone. You need to wear your seatbelt in the back, too. In fact, not long after Leo had left, Khloe and Sophia were on his tail, driving Khloe's massive Land Rover. When they saw that Leo hadn't let Yvonne sit in the front, Khloe let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Sophia, do you think he knows we're following him? Is that why he made her sit in the back? Sophia was playing a game on her phone in the passenger seat. She glanced up. Probably not. She looked back down at the screen. All right, stop overthinking it. Let's just head to the airport. Okay, Khloe agreed. Then a mischievous grin spread across her face. Can you imagine the look on his face when he sees us on the same flight? Do you think he'll have that guilty look of being caught in the act? The thought made her giggle. Sophia gave her a sidelong glance. Just drive the car. If he was capable of feeling guilt, he wouldn't be Leo White. True. Khloe deflated like a popped balloon. Sophia offered a small consolation. He won't feel guilty, but he'll definitely be happy. Just as Khloe was about to ask why, Sophia broke into a full smile. Because then he could drag you over to his hotel room tonight to keep him warm. Sophia. Khloe shrieked, her face turning bright red. Sophia just laughed and said nothing more. After checking in at the airport, Leo saw they had half an hour before boarding. He went to a nearby convenience store and bought breakfast for 4. He handed one of the bags to Ivonne. She looked at the massive sack of food still in his hands, horrified. Is that all for you? Leo didn't bother explaining. He just grunted in affirmation, sat down next to her, and sent a text to Sophia. You guys coming to get this, or do I have to bring it to you? He'd driven Khloe's Land Rover enough to recognize it anywhere. There was no way he hadn't noticed them following him. But he hadn't bothered to wait. They were all going to the same place, after all. Sophia chuckled and handed the phone to Khloe, who was staring daggers in their direction. Honestly, doesn't he know about personal space? Why are they sitting so close? I thought Yvonne hated it when guys got near her. Why don't you go ask her yourself? Sophia said, trying to suppress a laugh at Khloe's jealousy. What? Khloe gasped. No way. I'm just going to watch. All right, you watch then, Sophia said. Then, to Khloe's astonishment, she stood up and started walking toward Leo. Sophia. Khloe called out, but Sophia didn't stop. She just gave Khloe a reassuring look over her shoulder. And so, Khloe watched, wide-eyed, as Sophia walked right up to Leo, took 2 sets of pastries and milk from his hands, and walked back. Here, this is yours, Sophia said, handing Khloe her share. Huh. Now Khloe was even more confused. Sophia finally handed her the phone with a smile. He knew we were here, Khloe said, shocked as she read the text. Sophia shrugged. Looks like it. Whatever, let's eat. Khloe's face cycled through shades of red and white. After a moment, she asked quietly, He's not mad, is he? No. He just said not to interrupt his conversation with the pretty girl. Jerk. Khloe fumed, stomping her foot. She grabbed the handle of her suitcase and stormed toward Leo with purpose. Yvonne, who had been chatting with Leo, saw her coming and quickly vacated her seat, moving a safe distance away. Leo White. Khloe pointed at him, her cheeks puffed out. Yeah. Leo looked up from his milk, a white mustache still on his upper lip. He stared at her blankly, as if he couldn't possibly imagine why she was upset. You told her not to interrupt you? The terminal was crowded, and Khloe's dramatic entrance had drawn a lot of eyes. A pretty girl is a welcome sight anywhere. Hearing her accusation, many of them turned to look at Leo, wondering what he'd done to make her so angry. Leo didn't bother defending himself. He just waved at Sophia, motioning for her to come over, then patted the empty seat Yvonne had just left. You sitting? Khloe didn't hesitate. She plopped down, still fuming and glaring at him. Yvonne, however, looked mortified. She had overheard Leo and Sophia's teasing and knew Khloe was here to call him out. She wanted to say something to defend herself, to explain, but the words wouldn't come. Maybe she just didn't have the confidence. Sophia, holding her milk carton in one hand and pulling her suitcase with the other, came over and sat across from them with a slight smile, as if she didn't know them at all. Just another member of the crowd, enjoying the free entertainment. Leo hadn't finished his milk, deciding the flavor wasn't to his liking and not wanting to be wasteful now that Khloe was here. He simply moved the straw to her lips. You haven't had breakfast, have you? Take a sip. Khloe didn't even seem to mind the bite marks on the straw. She took a drink. Slow down, Leo said gently, and then unwrapped a pastry for her. Eat something. Khloe had come over ready for a fight, but under this barrage of affection, her anger began to dissipate. Still, she had to ask, what did you say to Sophia just now? That we shouldn't bother you. Her words were muffled by the food in her mouth, which, combined with her naturally cute features, made her even more adorable. Leo reached out and brushed a crumb from the corner of her mouth. If I hadn't said that, would you have come over? I thought you were off on your own adventure. Khloe fell silent, shot him a look, and went back to eating. Just then, the boarding announcement came over the intercom. Because of Khloe and Sophia's arrival, Yvonne had become quiet and reserved. After they boarded the plane, she even found Khloe and asked if she wanted to switch seats. But Khloe glanced at Sophia beside her and flatly refused. In her words, this trip to Denver was a girl's trip with Sophia. It had nothing to do with Leo. Yvonne just managed a small smile. On the plane, Leo closed his eyes to sleep, paying no attention to the beautiful woman next to him. Ivonne did the same, putting on her headphones and tuning everything out. If Khloe and Sophia hadn't been there, she might have told him she'd found a great new song and offered him one of her earbuds. But now, not a chance. It wouldn't be appropriate. After they landed, Leo deliberately slowed his pace, waiting for Sophia and Khloe to catch up. You guys can come with me to the hotel first. April booked me a suite, so I'll be generous and give you one of the rooms. Then I have to take care of some things. I'll come find you when I'm done. Okay, Sophia replied cheerfully. Come back soon. Leo nodded. At the arrivals gate, the head of Rush Sportswear's Southwest Division was already waiting. He hurried over as soon as he saw Leo. Mr. White, it's been too long. You're looking sharper than ever. The man's face was plastered with a sycophantic smile as he spouted pleasantries. He was an old-timer at the company, recommended by Mr. Stewart, in charge of product operations for the entire Southwest region. This was Leo's first time visiting the area, so the man was laying it on thick. Mr. Zhang, you're too kind, Leo said. You're the one who looks younger every time I see you. Mr. Zhang was an old fox. He didn't know Leo well and couldn't get a read on his personality, so he was constantly probing. Leo didn't mind. This was how a real professional acted. Since you've made the rare trip out to the Southwest, would you like me to arrange a meeting with the local team? Mr. Zhang asked with a smile. Let's skip it this time, Leo replied directly. With you in charge here, I have nothing to worry about. The Southwest performance reports have consistently been at the top of all the regions. Honestly, Leo hadn't planned on meeting with anyone from the company on this trip. But when Laureen found out, she'd made the arrangements anyway. Her logic was simple. If the company's owner visited a region and didn't even say hello to the local leadership, it would make people second-guess things. It would be bad for morale and, ultimately, the company. So, with that in mind, Leo had contacted Mr. Zhang before he left and let him arrange his accommodations and transportation. But a formal visit to the office? No thanks. Leo didn't want to ruin anyone's weekend. A good boss knows how to respect his employees' time. Mr. Zhang didn't press the issue. He waved his driver over. Lee, you take good care of Mr. White while he's in Denver. The man he called Lee looked to be in his 30s. A military veteran, he had a sharp, capable air about him. Yes, sir. Mr. Zhang turned back to Leo with a smile. Mr. White, Lee here is a man of few words, but he's very diligent. If there's anything at all that's not to your satisfaction, you just let me know, and I'll handle it. There's an old saying, don't go to the comfortable places when you're young, lest you enjoy the easy life so much you lose your ambition. In Leo's opinion, that was a bit one-sided. On the way to the hotel, he chatted with Lee. The driver was quiet first, but once they got talking, he opened up. The development here can't compare to the big coastal cities, but for an inland hub, we're definitely one of the top spots, Lee said. And with the government pushing all this new development out west, Colorado and the whole region are set to grow fast. Leo smiled. Mr. Lee, you must be a Denver native, right? Lee grinned, his voice carrying a slight, folksy Western accent. That I am. I know every street and alley in this city like the back of my hand. Mr. White, you want to go somewhere, you just tell me. I'll get you there. Leo didn't doubt it for a second. If he didn't have at least that much skill, Mr. Zhang wouldn't have assigned him as Leo's driver. But Leo wasn't worried about directions. In that case, he asked, you must know of a man named Yuan Jun? He lowered his voice slightly. I've heard he's a big deal in this part of the country, does a lot of business. The moment Leo said the name, Ivonne, sitting in the back, tensed up. Yuan Jun was her father. Her brother had actually wanted to pick Leo up personally after learning he was coming. But Leo had heard from Ivonne that her brother was going through a rough patch. The family had apparently lost all faith in him. So Leo had firmly refused, promising he would get Ivonne home safe and sound. That's why she was in the car with him now. Lee thought for a moment. You mean Yuan Jun, the one in the import-export business? He asked uncertainly. That's probably him, Leo said. He had no idea how many big-shot Yuans there were in the trade business around here. But based on what Ivonne had told him, the most famous one had to be her father. That got Lee excited. Mr. Yuan. Now, there's a formidable man. A lot of the high-end imported equipment for factories and hospitals in the Southwest, it all comes through him. I heard his name when I was just a kid, knew he was rich. He's even more successful now. Lee paused, as if remembering something. Of course, he can't compare to you, Mr. White. Leo laughed. Mr. Lee, don't talk nonsense. I know my own limits. Lee gave an embarrassed chuckle, but insisted, it's not nonsense. At your age, he was nowhere near as capable as you are. Leo just smiled. So, Mr. Lee, what else do you know about the Yuan family? Lee caught on. Leo was particularly interested in the Yuan family's business dealings in Denver. He launched into a detailed explanation, sharing everything he'd heard. After he was done, Leo asked, seemingly out of nowhere, "I had no idea your family was so impressive. They say wealthy families usually send their kids overseas to study. How come you didn't go? What was so special about the University of Oregon?" He shot a teasing look into the rearview mirror. "Don't tell me you were like Khloe, on a 1,000-mile quest to find a husband." Khloe, also in the back, heard the unprompted jab and smacked him with her little fist. "Hey, you're the one who went on a quest." Leo caught her hand in his. "Don't mess around. I'm asking your sis-in-law a question." With her hand held by Leo, Khloe actually stopped struggling. She looked at Ivonne, curious as well. In this era, almost anyone with the means would study abroad. The foreign-educated label was as good as a golden ticket back home. Ivonne had been pleased when Leo acknowledged her family's status, but his question about why she didn't go abroad made her sigh. "I guess my family felt that it would be problematic if I were too successful." Leo glanced at her in the rearview mirror and didn't press further. It was the same in many wealthy families. They were afraid of having too many capable children, which made choosing a successor difficult. Not every dynasty was as open-minded as Rosalind Goo's. "The University of Oregon is great, though," Ivonne said with a small, sad smile. "The mountains are high and the emperor is far away. No one bothers me, as long as the money shows up on time." It was impossible to tell how much of her smile was genuine and how much was bitter. The driver, Lee, was still reeling from Leo's casual comment. The young woman in the back was the Yuan family's daughter. The realization that he'd just been spilling all sorts of gossipy, second-hand rumors about a powerful family made his toes curl inside his shoes. He felt like he'd dug a 3-bedroom apartment out of the floorboards with them. Thankfully, she didn't seem to hold it against him. Still, Lee didn't dare say another word. He pulled up to the hotel entrance, handed the keys to the valet, and got out to help with the luggage. Leo got out too. "You can wait for me here," he said to Ivonne. "I'm just going to drop my stuff off, then I'll come down and we can go see your brother." Of all of them, Ivonne had the least luggage. She was coming home, after all. A small bag was all she needed. She nodded and pointed to a sofa in the lobby. "See you in a bit." Leo gave her an okay sign and followed the bellhop to check in. The suite was on the top floor, with its own private elevator. The perks of being rich. Once in the room, Leo dropped his bags and turned to Sophia and Khloe. "You two can go explore for a bit. Call me if you need anything. We'll grab dinner later." He paused, then added, "We don't know this place, and some people are a little too conspicuous, so don't go wandering off." Sophia stifled a laugh. Khloe, however, was not amused. "Some people? Who exactly are some people? And what do you mean, conspicuous?" Leo reached out and pinched her cheek. "Sorry, my mistake. Poor choice of words. I meant to say beautiful. You know who you are." Khloe pouted. "That's more like it." She hesitated. "By the way, you and Ivonne." She stopped, not finishing the sentence, pointedly using Yvonne's first name instead of calling her sis-in-law. Leo held up his hands. "Don't overthink it. I just need their family's help with something." Khloe knew Leo's personality. On matters like this, if he told her not to worry, then there was really nothing to worry about. "Hurry back." Leo flashed another okay sign and left. When he got downstairs, Yvonne was on the phone. She saw him approaching and quickly wrapped up her call. Lee was waiting for them as well. "Mr. White, where to next?" Leo gestured to Yvonne as she walked over. "To her house." Once they were in the car, Leo once again sat in the passenger seat, leaving the executive boss seat in the back for Yvonne. She sat ramrod straight, clutching her phone. She looked like she wanted to say something, but couldn't bring herself to do it. Even Leo couldn't stand the silence. "Yvonne, what's wrong?" She bit her lip, looking conflicted. After a long hesitation, she finally asked timidly, "Tonight, could I borrow you for, not a whole hour, just half an hour?" Fearing he'd get the wrong idea, she quickly added, "A friend of mine heard I was back and wanted to get together." "A guy, right?" Leo asked casually. After she mumbled a yes, Leo pressed on. "And he used to have a crush on you?" "That was a long time ago." Leo had never been to Denver, but he'd heard of Cherry Creek. Yvonne's home was there, a standalone villa. While not as sprawling as Khloe's family estate, it was undeniably lavish. Knowing Leo was coming today, Yvonne's brother, Victor, was already waiting at the door. Leo had met him once before, back when he was full of swagger, every gesture exuding a brash confidence. But now, the sharp edge in his eyes was gone, replaced by a weary gloom. He was only in his mid-20s, but the thick stubble and dark circles under his eyes made him look a decade older. The smile on his face was forced, a pale imitation of his former self. "Come on in," Victor said, his voice laced with a deep guilt as he spoke to Ivonne. He could barely meet her gaze. I had a housekeeper make your favorite pork rib soup. After greeting his sister, he turned to Leo. My father heard you were coming, so he's waiting at home too. Thanks for making the trip all the way out here. Leo had only come to talk to Victor about the futures market incident. His original plan was to meet him somewhere else, but Victor had refused. His exact words were that everyone in their circle already knew, and he was too ashamed to be seen in public. Good news travels slow, but bad news spreads like wildfire. Leo didn't push it and agreed to come to his house. Victor even managed a weak joke. You know, this is the first time Yvonne has ever brought a guy home. Hearing the tired attempt at humor, Leo rolled his eyes. You want me to leave? No, don't. Victor immediately threw an arm around his shoulders. You're already here. Besides, I want to hear your brilliant insights. He guided Leo inside. Yvonne, I'm going to take Leo to Dad's study. Make yourself comfortable. Yvonne knew Leo was here to talk business with her brother. For some reason, as she watched them walk toward her father's study, a strange feeling washed over her. Just like Victor had said, this really was the first time she'd brought a guy home. Yvonne sighed. She decided not to dwell on it and went straight to her room. The Yuan house was large. It took them a while to reach the study. The door was open, and before they even got there, Leo could see a man of about 50 inside, dressed in a white silk shirt, practicing calligraphy with a brush. To be honest, Leo's impression of Yuan Jun wasn't great. A man who would use his own daughter as a bargaining chip. What else was he capable of? It was the main reason Leo hadn't wanted to come in the first place. But he was here now, and he had to go through the motions. Dad, Leo's here, Victor called from the doorway. He wouldn't dare enter without his father's permission. Oh, Yuan Jun put down his brush and looked over, his face breaking into a benevolent smile. Come in, come in. He even walked over to greet them. His eyes never left Leo, his smile radiant. Mr. White, your name precedes you. It's an honor to finally meet you. A true hero emerges from the young generation. Leo returned the smile and offered a polite reply. Mr. Yuan, you're too kind. Compared to you, I'm just a kid. Now you're just being modest, Yuan Jun said as he led Leo to a tea table, sitting across from him and personally steeping the tea. How long are you planning to stay, Mr. White? Denver is a beautiful place with plenty to do. I'll have Victor and Ivonne show you around. Thank you, Mr. Yuan, Leo said, but I have to head back to Oregon tomorrow. I have classes on Monday, so I won't impose. Yvonne had already told him his schedule. This was all just empty politeness. Yuan Jun didn't press the issue, just feigned surprise. What a coincidence. I had no idea you and Yvonne go to the same school. In that case, I'll have to ask you to look after her for me. Leo took a sip of the tea. He didn't know anything about tea and couldn't appreciate it, but that didn't stop him from calling it excellent. He set the cup down. You're joking, Mr. Yuan. Yvonne is my senior. She should be the one looking after me. No problem at all, Yuan Jun said cheerfully. I'll have a word with her. Leo had no idea how much of what he said was genuine. He just smiled and kept quiet. Yuan Jun was a busy man. He rarely had time to come home. The fact that he was patiently waiting here today, acting all calm and collected, couldn't be for nothing. Leo wasn't in a hurry. He would just wait. After the initial pleasantries, Yuan Jun had concluded that Leo was a little fox. He was polite about everything, giving nothing away. After a moment of silence, Yuan Jun finally got to the point. Leo, I heard from Victor that you came to see him about the futures market incident. Victor had been sitting silently on the side, uninterested in the meaningless small talk. When he heard this, his head snapped up, and he stared intently at Leo. Leo nodded. Victor, he began, I'm going to be blunt, so please don't be offended. What made you decide to get into futures trading in the first place? Yuan Jun kicked his son under the table. It was clear he was still furious about the whole affair. Go on, tell him. Now, you know what shame feels like. Victor's already melancholic expression grew even more haggard. He sighed. It was a few friends. They were in futures. At the time, the price of copper was rising, and they swore to me it would keep going up. They told me to go long, buy some. At first, I was just testing the waters. I put in about 20 grand with 10 times leverage. In 2 days, that 20 grand turned into over 60. Once I had the money, they convinced me to take a trip to Vegas. As stoic as Yuan Jun was, he couldn't help but breathe heavily at this. If Leo weren't here, he probably would have started kicking his son again. He had to take a sip of tea to calm himself down. Victor glanced nervously at his father. Seeing he wasn't being watched, he felt a little more at ease. You can probably guess the rest. Easy money is even easier to spend. After a few days in Vegas, I'd blown through it all, and I'd used some of the company's funds. I told myself I'd win it back on the market when I got back. But who knew? Not only did I not win it back, but I kept adding more leverage until I was finally forced into a margin call. After hearing Victor's story, Leo didn't detect anything particularly suspicious. It was just a classic case of gambler's fallacy. Few people can handle a windfall. Like he said, easy come, easy go. Worse, that easy money can warp your perspective, making you think making money is simple. After all this happened, what about those friends of yours? At Leo's question, Victor glanced at his father. Yuan Jun coughed. They went back to their hometowns. Right. Leo figured he'd overstepped. He quickly changed the subject. Victor, the reason I came to see you is because I heard something. Evergreen Capital made $200 million a while back by shorting copper futures. Evergreen Capital, from the Evergreen Group? It wasn't Victor who spoke, but his father. When Leo nodded, Yuan Jun's expression shifted slightly. Richard Qian and the Goo family. They're partners. If that's true. Leo knew exactly what he was thinking and pressed on. Mr. Yuan, in your recent liquidation, who benefited the most? Yuan Jun was silent for a moment before answering. The Goo family. To raise $50 million in such a short time, I had to sell many assets to them at a discount. There were many people who could come up with that much cash. At the time, they were the only ones I could think of. The more Yuan Jun spoke, the colder his voice became. He'd had his suspicions before, but had dismissed them as paranoia. After all, the Goo family was a massive enterprise. They wouldn't stoop to such tactics. But now, after what Leo had said, the doubts were creeping back in. Mr. Yuan, I'm just sharing what I heard. You'll have to investigate the details yourself, Leo said. He still felt that the Goo family was above such schemes, but he didn't state it definitively. Yuan Jun took a deep breath. Understand. Leo, you've taught me a valuable lesson. He shed his gloomy expression and managed a slight smile. Besides this, is there anything else you came for today? Leo didn't answer immediately. He just looked at Yuan Jun. Mr. Yuan, I only came here to find out if the Evergreen Group was involved in this. It seems Victor doesn't know either. So, I won't take up any more of your time. With that, Leo made a move to leave. That's when Yuan Jun couldn't sit still any longer. Your presence brightens our humble home. How could it be a bother? This is hardly a humble home, Leo quipped. Now Yuan Jun was at a loss for words. Leo was playing dumb, and that was the hardest kind of person to deal with. Mr. Yuan, if there's nothing else, I should be going. 2 friends came to Denver with me, and they're waiting. Leo stood up from his chair. Leo. Just as he was about to leave, Yuan Jun called out to him. Leo sighed quietly and turned around. Yes, Mr. Yuan. Yes. Yuan Jun dropped the smile, along with his pride. He got straight to the point. I hear you're very close with Ethan Jiang. Leo had guessed it all along. He himself was of no importance to a man like Yuan Jun. The only reason he was being treated with such courtesy was because of Ethan Jiang. Leo shrugged. I'm not sure how to answer that. Oh. Yuan Jun looked surprised. Leo continued, Mr. Yuan, if some poor kid had his eyes on your daughter, would you be very close with him? Yuan Jun was stunned. When he recovered, he gave an awkward laugh. Well, if that kid's name was Leo White, I suppose I would be. Old fox, Leo cursed silently, but his face remained cheerful. Are you asking me to connect you with Mr. Jiang? Yuan Jun nodded. Leo didn't agree right away. Your businesses are in completely different fields, aren't they? Why do you need to contact him? Besides, after that last incident, Mr. John's company isn't doing so great either. He won't be able to help you much. Yuan Jun shot Victor a look. Victor understood. We're out of water. I'll go get some. He quickly left the study, pulling the door closed behind him. Now, only Yuan Jun and Leo were left in a room. By the time Leo left the Yuan residence, it was already 5 in the afternoon. Yuan Jun had insisted he stay for dinner, but Leo had refused no matter what. Fortunately, Yuan Jun was in high spirits and didn't take offense. What did you and my dad talk about? Ivonne, who had walked out with Leo, was curious about what they had discussed in the study that had made her father so happy. Leo was looking at a text from Ethan Jiang on his phone and didn't have time to answer her. How did you get mixed up with the Yuans again? You after his pretty daughter again? If you don't give me a good explanation, I'm flying over there right now to take Khloe home. Leo had contacted Ethan while he was in the study. Knowing others were present, Ethan had been very polite, not saying a single harsh word. He could only send his warnings via text. 1. No. 2. You can't. Leo typed back. By the way, Uncle Ethan, sounds like you're flush with cash lately. Feel like sparing some change. After hitting send, he looked up at Ivonne with a blank expression. Sis-in-law, what did you just say? Ivonne pressed her fingers to her forehead. Never mind. By the way, wait for my call tonight. Leo gave her an okay sign, got in the car, and drove off. Next stop, taking Sophia and Khloe out for hot pot, and figuring out how to sweet-talk his way into a 1-hour leave of absence. He'd made a promise, and he had to keep it. Plus, he was genuinely curious to experience a bit of Denver's nightlife. After Ivonne returned home, she was stopped by her father. "You and Leo? What's your relationship?" Ever since Leo had left, the smile on Yvonne's face had vanished. Since the day Yuan had told her to go see Grayson Goo, the word father didn't seem so grand anymore. "We're classmates." Her voice was flat. "All right, you guys do your thing. I'm going out for a bit, and then I'm heading straight back to campus." Yuan was filled with guilt. He let out a long sigh. "I was wrong before." "It's fine," Ivonne said lightly. "How could you be wrong? You're always right." Yuan could see the resentment in her words. He had been desperate at the time. If there had been any other hope, he never would have pushed his own daughter into the fire. But it seemed the situation wasn't what he had thought. The one who convinced the Goo family. It wasn't Grayson, was it? Yuan finally asked. Yvonne's footsteps faltered. Without turning back, she said it was Leo. Surprising, isn't it? With that, she disappeared into her room. To her, coming home really did feel like just a brief visit. Victor knew this was all his fault. He didn't dare say a word. He thought back to the first time he met Leo, how he had dismissed him. He never would have imagined that in such a short time, Leo would have already reached such heights. When Leo found Khloe and Sophia, they were wandering through the 16th Street Mall. It seemed like every major tourist city had a place like this, a spot locals avoided, teeming with out-of-towners. They called it a historic street, but it was suffocatingly commercial. Aside from the newly constructed old buildings, there wasn't a trace of genuine history to be found. The prices were also much higher than anywhere else. Even so, plenty of tourists were happily spending their money. Khloe and Sophia were two such suckers. They were holding some snacks, claiming they were a Denver specialty. They offered Leo a bite. He immediately regretted it. "Are you trying to poison me?" Leo asked, his face contorted in disgust. Sophia shot him a disdainful look. "You just don't have a refined palate." Leo swallowed hard and didn't argue. "You can't reason with a fool." But then Khloe chimed in. "I think these Rocky Mountain oysters are actually pretty good," she said. "Oh, right. The locals call them prairie oysters." Leo understood that taste was subjective. If they said it was good, then it was good. He just wasn't eating it. It was like how some people couldn't stand cilantro. If you two eat so much now, how are you going to have room for dinner? Leo's itinerary had been meticulously planned by April, his new assistant. She had even booked a table at a popular hot pot restaurant for that evening. The new assistant may have been on the job for only a short time, but her competence was impressive. Khloe and Sophia's mouths never stopped moving. They replied between bites, their words muffled. "It's fine. We'll walk it off. By the way," Khloe added, "you didn't invite anyone else to dinner tonight, did you?" Leo looked at her, confused. Was I supposed to invite someone I didn't? Seeing his expression, Khloe declared righteously. "Ivonne, of course. She came all this way with you. It wouldn't be right not to invite her, would it?" Leo saw right through her little act. But for his own sake, and hers, he played dumb. "What's not right about it? She's not my anything. Why would I invite her? To be a third wheel? Sorry, the glare would hurt my eyes." He said it with such conviction that Khloe couldn't find any fault in his logic. It was also exactly what she wanted to hear. After a couple of satisfied hums, she dropped the subject and went back to her snacks with Sophia. Sophia, however, gave Leo a longer, more thoughtful look. She had a feeling it wasn't that simple, but she didn't ask. The three of them explored the area until just after 5 o'clock before finally leaving. In the middle of it all, Leo took a phone call. Afterwards, he looked at Khloe and Sophia with an apologetic expression. "After dinner, I'll take you two back to the hotel. I have a networking event tonight I have to deal with." They knew Leo was busy, so they didn't think much of it. His reason was perfectly plausible. It was a rare trip to Denver for him. Of course, the local company leadership would want to meet with him. And that kind of business function wasn't a place for them. "Oh, okay," Khloe said, her voice a little down, but she understood. Her own father used to have all sorts of work dinners. In comparison, Leo was much better. And another thing, Leo said, holding his phone and looking at them seriously. "We don't know anyone here. I want you to stay in the hotel tonight and not run around. If you want to do something else, you tell me first." "Got it." You can only walk the tightrope for so long before you slip. Leo had to take every precaution. If they found out, Sophia would be fine, but Khloe would definitely throw a fit. And the worst part was, he actually felt guilty. To avoid any accidents, he had to lay the groundwork now. We know, Khloe said quickly. "We won't go anywhere. Even if we do want to go out, we'll wait for you to come back." "You, on the other hand," she said, pointing at him, Don't drink too much. And if you do, remember to call me or Sophia. Hearing the concern in her voice only made Leo feel more guilty. You know what? You should probably just yell at me a little, he suggested. His request left both Khloe and Sophia completely baffled. They had never heard such a bizarre demand. Seeing their confused faces, Leo quickly explained, well, because I can't take you with me to the dinner tonight. How could Khloe and Sophia bring themselves to yell at him? In any case, Leo had given the chance. It was their choice not to take it. His guilt lessened considerably. After dinner, smelling strongly of smoke and spices, he dropped Khloe and Sophia back at the hotel and took a cab, leaving the driver behind. Ivonne had already sent him the address. It was a bar next to a landmark downtown skyscraper. This was the nightlife of the young. Eat separately, then meet up at a club to dance. In his past life, Leo was no stranger to bars. But in this life, he'd only been 2 or 3 times, and always dragged along by someone else. Ivonne was already waiting at the entrance. She was with 4 or 5 other people her age, laughing and chatting. In terms of looks, Ivonne had an overwhelming advantage. She was the star of any crowd, and naturally attracted many admirers who were constantly trying to win her favor. Ivonne, where's this friend you were talking about? Isn't he with you? Why don't we just go in without him? It's pretty clear he doesn't think this is important. Ivonne felt a knot of anxiety in her stomach, an emotion she had never experienced before. She clutched her phone, her eyes scanning the endless stream of cars on the street. Now, she too was starting to wonder if Leo would even show up. He had sounded so sure on the phone, but what if something else had come up? What if Khloe didn't want him to leave? When it came down to it, what was she to him really? Ivonne sighed. Just as she was about to say something, a taxi pulled up to the curb. Leo got out of the back and waved at her. The knot in her stomach finally loosened. The tension in her face relaxed. She hurried over to him, and in front of everyone, linked her arm through his affectionately. Because her back was to the group, they couldn't see her expression or hear her whisper desperately to Leo, "Please, help me out." Looking at her pleading eyes, Leo found he couldn't say no. He was already here, might as well see the performance through to the end. But he still whispered a quiet warning. "Why do you insist on creating trouble for yourself?" Ivonne stiffened slightly, but didn't answer. She simply pulled Leo toward the waiting group. "This is Leo, the friend I was telling you about. We go to the same school." Leo glanced at the group. 5 people, 2 guys, 3 girls. The women didn't have much of a reaction to him, just offering polite, smiling hellos. The 2 men, however, were another story. They eyed him up and down, and one of them looked like he wanted to eat Leo for dinner. Fortunately, Leo had long since become immune to such psychic attacks. He casually draped his arm over Yvonne's shoulder. "Hey, everyone." He acted so naturally that, to the other man, it was a blatant provocation. The guy decided to ignore him completely and turned to Yvonne. "Everyone's here. Let's go in. We talked about getting together over the holidays, but you kept saying you were busy. Glad we finally got the chance." His rudeness was giving Yvonne a headache. She was worried Leo would get angry, so she just nodded in agreement. They had all been friends since childhood, their families had business ties, and their relationships were generally good. That was the only reason Yvonne had agreed to come. She knew what the guy was after, but knowing was one thing, and reciprocating was another. Yvonne had never considered dating before, and now, she glanced at Leo. Now it seemed even less likely. "Mr. Yuan, this way, please." The bar manager obviously knew the suitor. He greeted him with a fawning smile. On the way over, Yvonne had given Leo a quick rundown. The suitor's name was Brandon Yuan. His family owned a factory that manufactured electronics and accessories, and they were a partner for Nokia. They also produced their own universal chargers and batteries. In this era, these were all cash cows. For a business their size, the profits were astronomical. When Leo heard this, he expressed admiration, but inwardly, he was unimpressed. The march of time meant that some industries were destined for extinction. As Leo's group followed Brandon and the manager toward a VIP booth, another employee hurried over. "Mr. Yuan, did you drive tonight?" After getting a nod, he added with a grin, "We've saved a VIP spot for you right by the entrance. Shall I have your car moved?" Brandon didn't seem to care. He casually tossed the keys over. Even in the dim light, the prancing horse logo on the key fob was unmistakable. As he threw the keys, he shot a pointed look at Leo. "Thanks, Mr. Yuan. Your entire tab tonight is 20% off," the employee said, already signaling for someone to move the car. Many bars did this, leaving the most prominent parking spots empty for so-called luxury cars to show off their high-class clientele. Leo had done similar things in his past life. After maturing, He realized how tacky it was, a desperate plea for attention. Since his rebirth, he hadn't even considered it. As for Brandon's provocative stare, Leo just pretended not to see it. He didn't have to give anyone face. He was only here for an hour anyway. Whoa, Brandon, new car? Someone in the group chimed in. Brandon nodded, affecting an air of casual indifference. Leo leaned in close to Yvonne's ear. His family is that rich? Why didn't you go to him when your family was in trouble? Yvonne glared at him, annoyed. He really knew how to pour salt in a wound. But she explained anyway. $50 million isn't that simple. Besides, in their family, he's not the one who calls the shots. Oh, Leo smirked. So, you actually considered asking him? A sharp pain shot through his arm. Yvonne was pinching him hard. No. Leo pulled his arm back and whispered, you don't have to explain it to me. I think he's a pretty good guy. Just a little timid. Can't even look at a beautiful woman without being sneaky about it. As they had passed a waitress, Leo had noticed both Brandon and the other guy sneaking glances at her impressive cleavage, pretending they weren't interested. Yvonne was exasperated. You think everyone's like you? Staring so hard your eyes are about to fall out. I have no idea what Khloe sees in you. Leo shrugged, his tone flat. She has bad taste. So, you should learn from her mistake and take better care of your eyes. Hearing this, Yvonne felt a strange pang in her chest. She retorted without thinking. And what if I don't want to? The words were out before she could stop them. She froze. But Leo cut her off before she could explain. I get it. You're saying your eyesight is perfect. It doesn't need any maintenance. Yvonne stared at him blankly, then nodded. Yes, that's right. Leo smiled slightly and walked on toward Brandon and the others. While he and Yvonne were talking, they had fallen behind. Yvonne watched him go, her expression complicated. With a soft sigh, she followed. The booth was already laden with bottles of alcohol, all in exquisitely designed packaging that looked more expensive than the liquor inside. As for the taste, Leo didn't think much of it. Although Brandon and the others were annoyed with Leo, or rather, jealous, they didn't ignore him for Yvonne's sake. After a few drinks, Brandon turned to Leo. Brother, from your accent, you sound like you're from the East Coast. What business is your family in? Leo didn't have a noticeable accent when he spoke, so Brandon was likely guessing based on the fact that he went to the same school as Yvonne. He was just fishing for information, trying to figure out who this guy was. Leo held his glass, his eyes on the dance floor where a crowd of young people writhed to the rhythm of the music. He had to admit, some of those girls could really move. He finally pulled his gaze away when he heard Brandon's question. My family is very ordinary. My parents are honest people, farmers. I grew up in the countryside, never seen much of the world. Sorry to disappoint you, Brandon. Leo knew what he wanted to hear. If saying it made him happy, then he'd say it. Oh, not just Brandon, but everyone else was surprised. Leo's clothes and demeanor didn't scream country bumpkin. One of the girls pointed at the logo on Leo's jacket. Is that the limited edition commemorative jacket from the Rush and NBA collaboration? The market price is over $3,000, but it's almost impossible to find. Leo hadn't paid any attention to it. Rush was his brand, and they had indeed partnered with the NBA. He wanted their influence. They wanted the domestic market. As for the jacket, Leo shrugged. My girlfriend buys all my clothes. I had no idea it was so expensive. Brandon downed his drink in one gulp, his mood worsening. Yvonne, you're so generous. Yvonne was momentarily speechless. She glanced at Leo, who was absorbed in his phone, clearly having no intention of clarifying. So she decided to say nothing at all. She had asked Leo here today specifically to make Brandon misunderstand. If it had been anyone else, she wouldn't have gone to such trouble. But Brandon's identity was unique. Their families had business dealings, and she had already rejected him many times before, but he pretended not to get the hint. So she was using this opportunity to make him give up for good. She considered this tactic before, but couldn't find the right person. Leo's trip to Denver was a perfect coincidence. Ultimately, it was because she didn't dislike Leo. The music in the bar was deafening, punctuated by shrieks from the dance floor. The others from their booth had gone to join the fray. Leo had no interest. Brandon hadn't left either, his eyes darting between Yvonne and Leo, wanting to say something but holding back. Half an hour later, Brandon had drunk quite a bit. His face was flushed. Buoyed by alcohol, he looked at Yvonne. My dad mentioned a while back that your family ran into some trouble. Is it all resolved now? After Victor's disaster, Yuan had exhausted every option he could think of and contacted everyone he knew, but to no avail. As a last resort, he had swallowed his pride and asked Ivonne to go to Grayson Goo. As a result, many people in their business circle knew the Yuan family was in trouble and were even more hesitant to work with them. Even with the low-priced asset sale, Only the Goo family had dared to make a move. Ivonne swirled the cocktail in her glass, took a sip, and nodded. A strange silence fell again. Fortunately, the others returned from the dance floor, and a scattered conversation began. Just as the hour was almost up and Leo was planning to leave, another group approached their table. Before they even got close, a sneering voice cut through the noise. Well, look at this, all old friends. The great Miss Yuan is back in town. I hear you did a good job serving Mr. Goo. The speaker had a smile on his face, but it was the kind that made your skin crawl. His words were crude and unfiltered. Ignoring whether Brandon wanted him to, he sat down right next to him and draped an arm over his shoulder, leering at Ivonne. Did Mr. Goo get tired of you, so you came running back to our good old Brandon here? Brandon viciously knocked his arm away, his eyes blazing with fury. Kyle, what the hell are you talking about? Brandon's sudden movement had been so forceful that it sent the contents of Kyle's glass sloshing over, drenching his clothes. You bastard, one of Kyle's friends snarled, clenching his fists and stepping forward. But Kyle stopped him. He shook his hand, that same slimy smile still on his face. He looked at Brandon with pity. Brandon, my man, you don't know, do you? A while back, the Mr. Yuan, your respect, so much sent your goddess here all the way to Oregon to find Grayson Goo. And you know what? It actually worked. The payment that should have been made on time was delayed by half a month. Brandon was trembling with rage, pointing a shaking finger at Kyle. You're lying. Mr. Yuan isn't that kind of person. Kyle shrugged nonchalantly. Am I lying? Just ask her. Oh, wait. He pretended to remember something. She would never admit it, would she? His eyes roamed shamelessly over Yvonne's body. I really envy Mr. Goo. As he was speaking, Leo leaned closer to a pale-faced Yvonne and whispered in her ear, Is this guy really annoying? Yvonne turned to look at him. They were so close that her turn almost brought their lips together. Her heart suddenly started racing, her breathing quickening. It took her a moment to collect herself before she managed a nod. Leo smiled. He handed her his glass. Want to get even? Yvonne was confused, looking at him with questioning eyes. Leo just pushed the glass toward her and winked. Yvonne felt it wasn't right, but hearing Kyle's increasingly wild accusations, she finally snapped. Leo's words sealed the deal. I'm here. Don't be afraid. That was all the courage she needed. She stood up, took the glass, and threw its contents squarely in Kyle's face. Everyone at the table was stunned. No one had expected the quiet Yvonne to be so decisive. Kyle wiped his face, his shock turning into a smirk. Oh, getting angry? Did I say something wrong? Or are you just not going to admit it? He was a mess, but no one paid him any mind. All eyes were on Yvonne. She was panicking now, unsure of what to do. Why should she admit to something that didn't happen? Leo spoke up, getting to his feet. His hour was up. Well, I'm heading out. And who are you? Kyle frowned at Leo. He knew Brandon's crew, but Leo was a new face. He hadn't paid him any attention before. He's Yvonne's boyfriend. One of Brandon's friends piped up. Oh, Kyle drawled before Leo could even deny it. He looked at Leo like he was some pathetic creature. Well, that explains it. Tragic, really. Yvonne was afraid Kyle's words would provoke Leo, who had nothing to do with this mess. She quickly grabbed his arm. Let's just go. Leaving so soon. Kyle taunted, not letting up. Leo looked at Yvonne. Are you too close? Yvonne's brow furrowed. Not at all. His family used to be in the machinery business, but they couldn't compete with my dad, so they switched industries. He's caused trouble for my brother before, but he got put in his place. Oh, so he's just a loser? That explains everything. Leo's voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise like a razor. Even the heavy bass of the bar couldn't drown it out. Everyone heard it. Kyle's face turned a mottled shade of red and white. Who are you calling a loser? He roared, pointing at Leo. Leo shrugged. You. Was it not obvious? Did you skip out on your elementary education? Or were your ears just for decoration? You should consider donating them to someone in need. They're not doing you any good. Right, loser? It had been a while since Leo had really insulted someone. It felt a bit crude, but some people just begged for it. The old couldn't beat the old, and the young couldn't beat the young. They could only pick on the easy targets. Brandon and his friends were trying to hide their smiles. They looked at Leo with a new sense of wonder, unable to figure him out or guess his background. Kyle was used to being the one throwing his weight around. He'd never been insulted so directly. He was shaking with rage, but was powerless against Leo. Punch him? Maybe somewhere else, but starting a fight in a bar was a rookie mistake. All he could do was point a finger and say, you just wait. Then he turned his venom back on Yvonne. I can't even be bothered to talk about your sordid affairs. Grayson Goo is on his way here. When he sees you with another man, do you think he'll let you off the hook, even if you were just a toy to him? At the mention of Grayson's name, Yvonne flinched. She shot a worried look at Leo. She remembered he and Grayson had a history. Her reaction wasn't lost on the others. Connecting it with what Kyle had just said, Brandon's face went pale. Scared now? Kyle said, gloating. Mr. Goo is coming here specifically to handle the assets your family sold off at a discount. The tables have really turned, haven't they? Leo hadn't expected Grayson to show up, but made sense. The 50 million Yuan June had liquidated was a significant acquisition, even for the Goo family. It was only natural they'd send a representative to oversee it. It had been a while since he'd last seen him in Oregon. Can we go now? Yvonne's mood had soured, and she was worried about a confrontation between Leo and Grayson. But just then, Leo heard another familiar voice. Mr. White, you certainly have a way with the ladies. Everywhere you go, you're surrounded by beauties. The voice was soft and sweet, but it dripped with sarcasm. Are you in trouble again? Sis, please, don't joke around. I'm an honest guy. I don't go looking for trouble, Leo said with a grin. Rosalind Goo's arrival had captured everyone's attention. She walked up to Leo, glanced around at Brandon's crew, and asked, Are these your friends? Don't even joke, Leo shot back immediately. I'm not worthy. Oh, Rosalind looked slightly surprised, but it didn't last. Seeing the expressions on everyone's faces, she pieced it together and laughed. Then she spotted Ivonne. This must be Ivonne, right? I think I saw you at the university once. Do Khloe and Sophia know you're out playing with her? She made a show of pulling out her phone. You know what? I can't get a straight answer out of you. I'll just ask them myself. Leo lunged and snatched the phone out of her hand. Have a heart. Seeing him so flustered, Yvonne sighed. Rosalind, on the other hand, laughed even louder. So, you are out cheating. It's true what they say. Men turn bad as soon as they get a little money. Leo didn't want to argue with her. Sis, how about we chat another day? I'm tired tonight. Rosalind held out her hand, demanding her phone back. Leo couldn't read her intentions and was genuinely afraid she'd make a call. If he had actually done something, fine. But he was innocent. Taking her phone wouldn't hurt. But then Rosalind said, You don't really think I have their numbers, do you? Leo paused, then tossed the phone back to her with a cold ha. After a couple of icy laughs, he turned to leave. Kyle had said Grayson was coming, but Rosalind had arrived first. The siblings showing up in Denver at the same time meant they were both here to fight over the newly acquired assets. Leo wanted no part of it. Ms. Goo him. Kyle, who also knew Rosalind, saw Leo trying to leave and pointed. He dared to touch Mr. Goo's woman. Leo stopped in his tracks. He turned and looked at Kyle, his expression unreadable. Then he faced Rosalind. Are you too close? Kyle's outburst had been reckless. Even Rosalind was displeased. Ivonne and Grayson had no relationship to speak of. Thanks to Leo's interference, they had never even met. She heard the disgust in Leo's voice and simply shrugged. Not really. We might have some business dealings with their family in the future. Good to know, Leo said. He walked straight up to Kyle and punched him squarely in the face. With a dull thud, Kyle crumpled to the ground, dazed. He clutched his face, staring at Leo in disbelief. He couldn't believe Leo had actually dared to hit him. Ivonne covered her mouth, equally shocked. Only Rosalind remained calm, gently swirling the drink in her glass. She offered a token reprimand. Mr. White, you've gone too far. Leo was unfazed. Ms. Goo, he said coolly, perhaps you should consider a different business partner. Give it some serious thought. Rosalind didn't answer right away. She was actually considering Leo's proposal. Her family had only expressed an intent to partner with Kyle's. They were interested in their connections and market presence in the region. But there were other options. They weren't essential. The reason she had rushed to Denver ahead of Grayson was to gain an edge. At home, the siblings were amicable. But outside the family, it was a different story. As long as they used legitimate business tactics, their family didn't object. It was a competition to see who could bring more value to the family. This trip to Denver was part of that contest. It hadn't been decided which of them would take over the new assets. The family was waiting for their respective proposals. Rosalind had worked with Leo before, both times to advance her own career and gain more influence. But were they close? Not really. Business people cared about profit, not feelings. Leo had seen right through her. If you can't make up your mind, I'll just go ask your brother, he said. Let me know what you decide. I'm leaving. When Leo suggested Rosalind switch partners, Kyle had started to panic. His family had pulled a lot of strings and called in a lot of favors for a chance to work with the Goo family. If all that effort was negated by a single sentence from Leo, and because of his own actions, the consequences were unthinkable. His family would skin him alive. Fortunately, Rosalind hadn't said anything. But from their conversation, it was clear she and Leo were very familiar with each other. The worry gnawed at him again. Ms. Goo, No one is more sincere about this partnership than we are. Rosalind shot him a look, but didn't bother to reply. Grayson Goo arrived late, just in time to see Leo and Ivonne leaving. The two men didn't even bother to acknowledge each other. It was a victory they hadn't come to blows. "Sis, you sure work fast," Grayson said with a sneer. Rosalind wasn't the least bit embarrassed. She raised her glass to him. "Consider it a lesson in being proactive." "Oh, I'm so grateful," he retorted. He looked at the pathetic state of Kyle, his brow furrowing. "What happened to you?" Seeing Grayson, Kyle's confidence returned. "Mr. Goo, Yvonne was here with another man. How dare he?" He launched into a dramatic, embellished tale of Leo's misdeeds, claiming he had tried to be civil out of respect for Yvonne and Grayson's relationship, only for Leo to push his luck. But after his long-winded story, Grayson just said, "Oh." Then his voice turned cold. "Yvonne and I have no relationship. I don't want to hear anything like that again." Brandon and his friends, who hadn't left, exchanged confused glances. Brandon, however, let out a sigh of relief. He knew it. Yvonne wasn't that kind of person. Kyle was dumbfounded, frozen in place. Grayson continued, "And that man you were talking about, his name is Leo White. Rush Sportswear is his company, and he has several other ventures besides that. If you want to go after him, you can talk to me. If your method is sound, I'll help. Of course, you should also be prepared for his retaliation." Grayson spoke casually, but to Kyle and his friends, his words were like a clap of thunder. None of them could have imagined that the young Leo was the owner of Rush. A few months ago, that news might not have been so shocking. But things were different now. With Ethan Jong's backing and Leo's own maneuvering, Rush had signed sponsorship deals with numerous domestic and international sports leagues. Leo himself had secured the distribution rights for several major international sports brands. In the business world, the name Leo White, this rising star, was now legendary. Kyle's jaw dropped. He thought about Leo's suggestion to Rosalind on his way out. Maybe he really did have that kind of power. The panic intensified. But right now, the most important thing was to get on Grayson's good side. As long as Grayson didn't abandon him, he would be fine. As for Rosalind, since when did the woman in the family call the shots? "Mr. Goo, what can I get you to drink? It's on me tonight. Are you suggesting I can't afford my own drinks?" Grayson said irritably. It was clear he wasn't fond of Kyle either. That's not what I meant," Kyle stammered, wiping sweat from his forehead. All the bravado he'd shown in front of Leo had vanished. Rosalind shook her head. She said goodbye to Grayson and prepared to leave. She had only come today to meet this Kyle person. Now, she was disappointed. Grayson didn't try to stop her. He just asked for Leo's phone number. That put Rosalind on alert. "Why do you want his number?" Grayson was direct. "In business, there are no permanent enemies. Who knows, one day I might need to work with him." He gave Rosalind a meaningful look. "Sis, aren't you thinking the same thing? We're each finding our own allies. No one is getting in anyone's way." Seeing Rosalind was about to ask more, Grayson cut her off. "Leo and I have some friction, but there's no direct conflict of interest. I could work with Richard Chien before, and I can work with him now. I don't like the guy, but if I can't even tolerate that, how am I supposed to compete with you?" Rosalind had no comeback. If Grayson wasn't exceptional, why would the family entrust him with so much responsibility? They valued him not just for his ability, but also for his character. A petty, vindictive person could never manage a massive enterprise. The children of the wealthy might include some spoiled brats and layabouts, but those groomed as successors were all genuinely talented. Rosalind gave him Leo's number. Even if she hadn't, Grayson could have gotten it through other means. Their resources were always shared. It was just a matter of who got there first. Leo was oblivious to what happened next. At that moment, he was on the phone. "I'm on my way back now." "What? Who am I with? Are there any girls?" No, of course not." It was past 11 o'clock by the time Leo got back to the hotel. Khloe and Sophia were on the living room couch, watching TV. Sophia was fine, munching on a bag of chips as she watched, looking like she was used to late nights. But Chloe's eyes were heavy, and she kept yawning. When she heard the knock, she shot up, her bare feet padding across the floor. She peeked through the peephole, and only after confirming it was Leo did she open the door. "What took you so long?" she pouted, then leaned in to sniff him. She immediately pinched her nose. "You reek of alcohol. Go take a shower," she ordered. Leo grunted in agreement and headed straight for the bathroom. With Leo back, Khloe couldn't hold on any longer. Yawning, she mumbled a good night and went to her room. Sophia, however, was still glued to the television. When Leo came out, freshly showered, he sat down on the couch next to her. "Want some?" Sophia offered the bag of chips. "Fried food." "No thanks." Sophia didn't push it, just grabbed a handful for herself. Lying on her side, she casually propped her feet up on Leo's lap, letting him hold them. Have fun tonight? Leo wasn't sure what she was implying. Sophia blinked, inching closer and wrapping an arm around his neck. Come on, be a good boy and tell me everything, she whispered, a playful glint in her eyes. Don't worry, I won't tell Khloe. Leo would have to be an idiot to believe that. I had dinner with Mr. Lou and a few of the regional heads for Rush Sportswear's Southwest division. Had a couple too many drinks, that's why I'm back so late. Sophia clearly didn't buy it, but she was smart enough to know when to drop the subject. She let go of him and rested her head on his lap instead. Leo played with her hair, which was silky smooth from her recent shower. Did things go well today? Leo hadn't come to Denver for fun. He was here to meet with Ivonne Yuan's brother to get some information. Sophia knew that, which was why she asked. Leo leaned his head back against the sofa and rubbed his temples. It didn't quite go the way I expected, but I wasn't holding out much hope anyway. I'll just have to find another way. Sophia hummed in response and closed her eyes. It seemed that just having Leo nearby made it easier to relax, to feel safe. Then you should get some rest. We have to fly back tomorrow. She paused. Is Ivonne still coming with you? Leo's hand, resting in Sophia's hair, froze for a second. Yeah, he said. We go to the same school. Might as well travel together. After the incident with his son, Victor Yuan's businesses in the area had taken a huge hit, but he'd already been thinking about pivoting. Today, using Leo as a bridge, he'd gotten in touch with Ethan Jiang. After a brief conversation, they'd already reached a preliminary agreement to partner on real estate development in the Seattle-Tacoma area. Victor had the local network and resources, and Ethan had the capital and technical expertise. It was a natural fit. Of course, the specifics would require their teams to sit down for proper negotiations. Still, Victor Yuan now owed Leo a favor. Ethan, after teasing Leo relentlessly, had seemed to be in a good mood about it too. As Leo was leaving, Victor had even promised to do everything in his power to help with distribution for Rush and any other brands Leo represented in the region. As for Richard Chien, while there was no concrete proof linking him to the future's market manipulation, the fact that he was the primary beneficiary meant a line had been drawn in the sand between them. All things considered, this trip to Denver hadn't been a total waste, and meeting Rosalind Goo had been an interesting little interlude. Suddenly, Sophia sat up and playfully smacked him with a throw pillow. You jerk. You really have zero immunity when it comes to pretty girls, do you? What are you talking about? Leo retorted instantly. I'm not that kind of guy. Otherwise, do you think you'd be sleeping alone tonight? Sophia shot him a look. That's because you're a coward, she said, then spun around with a mischievous grin and headed for her room. Leo leaned back on the couch. With both of them gone, he could finally have a smoke. He had to admit, though, after dropping Ivonne off earlier, he really had almost not made it back. Best to keep that little detail to himself. All he could do was sigh. Man, drinking was a bad idea. Sunday morning, Leo was in a deep sleep when his phone rang, jarring him awake. You've got to be my favorite person in the world, he grumbled into the phone. It's this early, don't you sleep? It was Rosalind Goo. He wasn't in any mood to be polite with her. Did my brother call you? Rosalind's voice was tense, as if she hadn't slept all night waiting for an answer. The sleepiness drained from Leo's mind. Got out of bed, walked to the window, and pulled back the curtains. Sunlight flooded the room, feeling wonderfully warm. Hello, Rosalind pressed, her anxiety growing in the silence. That has nothing to do with you, does it? Leo said, deliberately vague. Rosalind went quiet on the other end. Are you still mad about last night? She finally asked. You're mistaken, Leo replied coolly. Last night had nothing to do with me, so I have no reason to be angry. If I got bent out of shape every time someone said something, I wouldn't get anything done. I'd spend my whole life getting even. Who you work with is your business, and who I work with is mine. After leaving the bar yesterday, Leo had indeed received a text from Grayson Goo. The message was simple, just an invitation to lunch. Leo had accepted. Truthfully, Leo didn't know Rosalind well. He'd used her connection to delay Victor Yuan's payment by half a month, but now it looked like her family was the one who had truly benefited. On top of that, he had already made other concessions for her, even handing over a promising investment project he'd been eyeing. After a long pause, Rosalind asked bluntly, what you said last night about finding a different partner. Leo gazed out the panoramic window, looking down at the city on the verge of an economic boom, and felt a wave of something like awe. He barely registered her question. I had too much to drink last night, he said dismissively. I was just talking nonsense. Don't worry about it. In reality, he had been thinking about connecting Rosalind with Victor Yuan. The assets she wanted to take over had originally belonged to Victor. He'd be the most natural person to manage them. Plus, Since Victor was already planning to pivot his assets, there wouldn't be any hard feelings. It could even lead to broader collaborations down the line. But now, he couldn't be bothered. Less trouble was better. As for Grayson, it was just lunch. Nothing more. All right, if there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. I have to go shopping, he said, his tone shifting. I don't know where these girls get all this energy, just dragging me around. It's bad enough taking one of them, but I've got the double whammy of torture. Rosalind thought he was just bragging, but then she considered the entitled brats in her own family, the ones who went through girlfriends like tissue paper. Compared to them, Leo was practically a saint. She sighed. All right, have fun. Talk to you later. Leo, are you up yet? Leo had just hung up the phone when he heard Khloe's voice at his door. Before he could answer, she burst right in. Oh, you're awake, she said. That's a surprise. Khloe was already dressed for the day in a pale yellow wool coat and black tights, with a pair of small leather shoes on her feet. Her hair was down, and a set of wispy bangs curled perfectly to frame her exquisite face. Tucked into the side of her hair was a little Winnie the Pooh beret. She was radiating youthful energy. What are you doing in here? He asked dryly. Came to see my abs? Pfft. Khloe scoffed, though her eyes couldn't help but dart down to his stomach, where the faint outline of muscles was visible. They're not that great. Leo couldn't be bothered to argue. He just pointed to the door. Out. Nope, I won't. Are you getting out or not? No. A cold smile spread across Leo's face. He lunged. Khloe shrieked and bolted, slamming the door shut behind her with a loud bang. Leo didn't chase her. His smile vanished as he turned to find something to wear. Even in March, Denver had a lingering chill. When he came out again, Sophia and Khloe were waiting in the living room. Khloe seemed hesitant to look at him, hiding behind Sophia whenever he glanced her way. Sophia just watched them with an amused smile. Let's go, Leo said, not even looking at Khloe and speaking directly to Sophia. I told the driver to take the day off. We're on our own today. Sophia, of course, had no objections. She let Leo take her hand and lead her toward the door, pointedly ignoring Khloe. Left behind, Khloe stomped her foot and quickly ran to catch up. The three of them spent the morning wandering around the city. Denver, nestled against the mountains, was truly living up to its reputation. The scenery, the food, the women, all top-notch. At least, that's what Leo thought. Khloe and Sophia never stopped eating, and Leo's eyes never stopped looking. You know, Leo said suddenly, maybe we should think about moving to Denver. Khloe's lips puckered into a pout. What's this about moving to Denver? She said, her voice dripping with acid. You just want to be closer to Ivonne, don't you? Don't be ridiculous, he shot back. If I want to be closer to her, I just offer her a job at my company. You think I wouldn't? For some reason, Khloe's face went pale. She stared at him, wide-eyed. You can't. Leo reached out and gently tapped her nose. Then stop overthinking things. He glanced at his watch. I have to go meet an old acquaintance for lunch. You two can wander around on your own. Who? Khloe asked. Grayson Goo. Hearing the name, Khloe froze. It was clear she was remembering something unpleasant. Leo put an arm around her shoulder. That's all in the past, he said softly. Trust me, everything will have a happy ending. Khloe nodded and took a deep breath. Leo, thank you. It was a rare moment of sincerity from her, but it didn't last long. Leo placed his hand on her forehead. You don't have a fever, he muttered to himself. What nonsense are you spouting? Khloe slapped his hand away, indignant. You're the one with the fever. Just go. Sophia and I'll be fine on our own. Leo turned and left without a hint of hesitation. As she watched his taxi pull away, Khloe's gaze lingered, a flicker of disappointment in her eyes. Sophia, do you think in his eyes I'll always just be a spoiled, reckless kid who will never grow up? Sophia let out a soft sigh. Isn't that a good thing? It means he'll always take care of you. Khloe started, looking at Sophia quickly. Sophia, that's not what I meant. A smile remained on Sophia's face. I know, but what I said is the truth. That's just Leo. He has a different way of being with different people. But you're the only one he acts like a kid with, fighting and bickering without a care in the world. Khloe fell silent, unsure of what to say. Thankfully, Sophia didn't seem to mind. Or perhaps, she was already used to it. Everyone had their place. To Leo, Khloe was the adventure of his youth. And she, Sophia, was his life. That was a truth she only needed to know for herself. Most people live with their youth only in their memories. But Leo was greedy. He wanted to hold onto his youth, right in the palm of his hand. Leo had met Grayson Goo before, but they never really talked. He wasn't sure why Grayson had suddenly reached out for lunch, but he'd agreed anyway. The restaurant was in a high-end hotel downtown. When Leo arrived, Grayson was already waiting in a private room. 2 people in a room this big was a bit extravagant. I was going to invite my sister, but on second thought, I decided against it, Grayson said, his tone casual. Sometimes it's good to let her misunderstand things. The more anxious she gets, the less happy she is. And that makes me happy. He was remarkably direct. There was no trace of the arrogant, wealthy air about him today. Is that the only reason you invited me to lunch? Leo asked. Because if so, I'll just eat and run. He draped his coat over the back of a chair, sat down, and immediately started eating, showing no reservations. Grayson poured him a glass of wine. We've had some misunderstandings in the past, but I hope they won't affect our future cooperation. Leo put down his chopsticks and looked at him. It was more than just a misunderstanding, wasn't it? At the winter formal, you were the one who had Ivonne do what she did, right? And I saw your shadow in the Mill District mess, too. Grayson gave a non-committal smile. If you couldn't handle that little bit of trouble, do you think I'd be having lunch with you? Besides, was that really trouble for you? It was just something you were going to have to face sooner or later. Leo didn't deny it. Seeing him quiet, Grayson smiled and continued. My sister wants to work with you because of the business miracles you've created in such a short time, and because of the investment choices made by your silver fur capital. Every move has proven that you have a unique, almost terrifying business acumen. Her motives for getting close to you aren't pure. I'm different. My motive is simple. He leaned forward. Making money. Grayson's approach was direct, but that's what made it so effective. It was hard to imagine that this was the same person who had lost face because of Yvonne just a few months ago, now sitting here calmly having lunch with Leo. Leo picked up his wine glass and raised it toward him. The Goo family has a vast empire. What kind of cooperation did you have in mind? Grayson smiled, clinking his glass lightly against Leo's. He took a sip before speaking. If you're not working with my sister, then you're working with me. If you're looking for financing, or if you want to introduce me to an investment opportunity on par with the ones my sister gets, I'm open to it. If this is a partnership, I'll need to see some sincerity, won't I? Leo's tone was even, a constant smile on his face as he watched Grayson. Grayson just laughed, raised his glass to Leo, and downed it in one go. Then he clapped his hands. A moment later, two men entered the room. One of them was Kyle, the guy from the bar the other night. His face was pale with terror. Mr. Goo, I won't do it again, I swear. Please forgive me. He tried to stumble toward Grayson, but was immediately blocked by the other man. Mr. Goo, what is this? Leo asked, feigning confusion. Didn't he offend you last night? Grayson said calmly. He was drunk and forced himself on a friend of mine. You tell me, what should we do with him? Leo's eyes turned to ice. Grayson noticed, but didn't seem to care. Some people, when they do wrong, have to pay the price, he continued. Leo, you decide. Do we hand him over to the police, or do we let him go? Hearing this, Kyle dropped to his knees and crawled toward Leo. Mr. White man, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please, have mercy. Let me go. You're a big man. Don't hold a grudge against a nobody like me. I'm begging you. He started banging his head on the floor over and over until his forehead was scraped and bleeding. It was clear he was genuinely terrified. Leo glanced at Grayson, who was nonchalantly eating, acting as if it had nothing to do with him. Leo knew exactly what this was. Grayson was using Kyle to send him a warning. If I can do this to him, I can do it to you. It didn't matter if the methods were dirty, as long as they worked. For now, Leo ignored Kyle. He picked up his wine glass and raised it to Grayson. This friend of yours, how close are you? Grayson shrugged. We can be very close, or we can be strangers. Kyle's pleas didn't stop. Small drops of blood dotted the floor around him. Enough, Leo said sharply. Kyle looked up, his eyes filled with a desperate hope. Just then, the door to the private room opened again. A middle-aged man walked in. The men with him were stopped at the door by Grayson's bodyguard. He entered alone, his face etched with fear. Mr. Goo, Kyle is a damn fool for what he did, but I'm begging you, please be magnanimous and let him go. I, Brandon Kwan, am willing to do anything for you. As long as you spare him, I'll do whatever you ask. I'll even go bankrupt if I have to. Brandon Kwan was Kyle's father. He had rushed over the moment he heard the news. Kyle was his only son. He couldn't let anything happen to him. It was the desperate love of a parent. Grayson stood up, helped Mr. Kwan to a seat, and even had someone bring in a new set of plates and chopsticks. He wiped his mouth with a napkin. Mr. Kwan, I'm so sorry, he said, but the decision on this matter now rests with my friend here. It's no use asking me. You have to ask him. Mr. Kwan wiped the sweat from his brow and forced a smile as he looked at Leo. Hello, may I ask your name? His name is Leo White, Grayson interjected, founder of Rush Sportswear and Silver Fur Capital. Last night, your son ran his mouth and offended him. Mr. Kwan froze. He knew his son's temperament. If even Grayson Goo said he'd offended someone, it must have been serious. Mr. White, a pleasure, a true pleasure, he said, his voice trembling. Let me toast you. Please, drink as you wish. He drained a 2-ounce glass of whiskey in a single gulp. After he finished, Mr. Quan let out a sharp breath and immediately refilled his glass. I failed to raise that animal properly. I'll punish myself with 3 shots. 3 more shots went down. Mr. Quan's face was already turning beet red. Dad, Kyle sobbed. Mr. Quan grabbed a nearby bowl and threw it at him. Shut up. He turned back to Leo, his face instantly shifting back to a pleading smile. Mr. White, you see, what will it take for you to let him go? Just name it. In Mr. Quan's eyes, Leo was his last hope. Leo glanced at Grayson, who was busy playing on his phone, clearly intending to stay out of it. All right, Grayson said suddenly, as if just remembering something. Mr. Quan also has business dealings with Evergreen Capital. Isn't Evergreen the main distributor for several foreign sportswear brands? Mr. Quan here handles their market in the Denver area. Mr. Quan, Grayson called out. Yes, I'm here, Mr. Quan said, his posture tense, his smile fawning. Grayson continued, Leo and Evergreen Capital are pretty much like fire and water. Mr. Quan immediately nodded, patting his chest. Mr. White, don't you worry. From now on, I will have no further dealings with Evergreen Capital. I will make sure they are out of the Denver market as soon as possible. Leo felt like a spectator watching a play unfold. Working with Grayson was like making a deal with a tiger. But with high risk came high reward. And at this moment, it seemed he didn't have the option to refuse. If he said no, he would have made a permanent enemy of Mr. Quan, with no chance of reconciliation. Mr. Quan, the victim in this matter isn't me, Leo finally said. If the person involved has no objections, then neither do I. It's up to you to talk to them. Yes, of course. Mr. Quan was overjoyed. He looked like he was about to drop to his knees in front of Leo. We'll handle it, don't you worry. Thank you, Mr. White, thank you. You animal, get over here and thank Mr. White. Mr. Quan roared at Kyle. Kyle scrambled over. Thank you, Mr. White. Mr. White, Brandon Quan pledged, I may not be a big shot, but I have some connections around here. If you ever need anything, just call me. I'll solve it for you. Grayson just smiled faintly, saying nothing. He waved a hand, dismissing them. Only then did Mr. Quan drag his son out of the room. The door closed. So, Grayson said to Leo, was my sincerity sufficient? Mr. Goo, are you trying to intimidate me? Leo asked, his voice just as direct. His guard against Grayson was now higher than ever. This man was ruthless, with a cunning that belied his age. Of course not. Grayson protested. He made his own mistake. I just gave you the opportunity to deal with him. He leaned forward, his voice low. Leo, don't worry. Besides, Grayson let out a soft laugh. Flies are drawn to rot, and you have to be strong to forge steel. You found success at a young age, and you've had people protecting you. You might not know how cruel the business world can be. I'm just giving you a little reminder. In business, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. Leaving the hotel, Leo was lost in thought. This meeting had deepened his impression of Grayson Goo. He previously thought he was just another rich kid coasting on his family's name. Now he saw the truth. Anyone groomed to be the heir of a powerful family like the Gus could never be that simple. He was wary, yes, but afraid? Not really. It was just as Grayson had said. At their level, even if you used dirty tricks, you had to find an enemy's weakness first. If you fell into a trap, that was on you. Conventional methods wouldn't work on Leo. Grayson was cunning, but was Leo any less so? A taxi pulled up. Leo extinguished the cigarette in his hand. Grayson's so-called partnership was simple. Stay out of the competition between him and his sister for the assets Victor Yuan was liquidating. In his words, siblings should compete on their own merits. Calling an outside help wasn't right. Previously, Grayson hadn't taken Rosalind seriously. But things were different now. When she first returned to the country, her family had given her some money to start an investment firm. Back then, she had nothing but cash. So she piggybacked on the investment directions leaked from Leo's silver fur capital, and it actually worked. Using that foundation, she'd muscled her way into getting the marketing rights for several cell phone brands from the family. And just recently, she'd gotten another piece of the pie from Leo, the distribution rights for several international sportswear brands. The supply and marketing channels were already made by Rush. It was another practically guaranteed moneymaker. And all this in just a few months. Watching her grow more and more powerful, the people in the family who had once favored him were starting to waver. That's why Grayson had finally contacted Leo. In the end, if it weren't for Leo, Rosalind wouldn't have the leverage she had now. As for their competition over the Denver assets, Leo hadn't planned on getting involved anyway, so he agreed to Grayson's terms. He was curious to see which of the siblings would come out on top. But just after he got in the car, his phone rang. It was Rosalind. "What did my brother talk to you about?" she asked, getting straight to the point. Leo had had a lot to drink. Leaning back in the seat, he rubbed his head. "He brought Kyle to me and told me to deal with him." He didn't hide it, telling her what had happened with Kyle. But that's all he told her. Rosalind was silent. After a long moment, she spoke, her voice hollow. "So, you agreed to help him against me? You really underestimate your brother, don't you?" Leo said, a hint of disdain in his voice. "He didn't ask me to go against you." He thought of Grayson's tone earlier and added, "Not now, and probably not ever." "I know that." Rosalind cut him off before he could say more. "Even if we don't see eye to eye on everything, we're still brother and sister. He won't go for the throat, and neither will I. When I say against me, I mean, are you going to help him block my expansion in Denver?" "I don't have that kind of power," Leo said quickly. "I know my limits. Look, I had a few drinks at lunch. I'm going to hang up. You do your thing." Before she could reply, he ended the call. On the other end of the line, Rosalind was in a hotel conference room, phone in hand, brows furrowed. Grayson meeting with Leo was not good news for her. The people around her were silent, too afraid to speak. "Ms. Goo," an assistant finally prompted, bringing her back to the present. "Right. Let's continue," she said. "We probably can't count on Brandon Kwan anymore. Does anyone have any other suggestions?" Someone from the team spoke up. "Ms. Goo, the assets we're acquiring are mainly 2 machine and equipment processing plants. We could actually consider continuing our partnership with Victor Yuan. His team is already familiar with the client base, material procurement, and factory management. If you reached out, he'd give you face." The suggestion was immediately met with opposition. Those assets were originally sold off by Victor at a low price. He's probably still furious about it. Going him now would be like slapping him in the face. Why would he agree? And even if he did agree out of respect for you, Ms. Goo, there's no guarantee he'd give it his all. It might be better not to involve him at all. Listening to the debate, Rosalind suddenly remembered what Leo had said last night. Find a different partner. At that moment, that girl, Ivonne, had been right by his side. That's enough. The team was arguing endlessly. Rosalind had heard enough. You can all get back to work. Keep an eye on what they're doing over there. By they, she meant Grayson. Both siblings had come with their own teams. It was a competition to see whose business plan would better satisfy the family. Rosalind sent another text to Leo. "Got time for afternoon tea? Bring Ivonne." "Not free," was Leo's simple reply. Just as Rosalind was thinking he was blowing her off, her phone buzzed again. It was another message from Leo, an explanation of sorts. "Afternoon flight back to Riverbend. I have to go to class." April Zhang had booked Leo's flight for 4 in the afternoon, which would get him back just in time for his evening class meeting. After leaving his lunch with Grayson, Leo called Sophia to ask where they were. He got the address and gave it to the driver. When he got there, Khloe and Sophia were at a park, sitting in an outdoor brewery. Young and beautiful, they were a stark contrast to the middle-aged regulars around them. "Been drinking again?" Khloe said with a pout, handing him her glass of craft beer. "Have a sip of this first." Leo took a small taste and pushed it away. "Bitter. Oomph." Khloe snorted. "That's because you don't know how to drink it." Leo didn't argue. He just leaned close and whispered in her ear, "I'd drink it if it came from you." "Perv." A blush crept up Khloe's cheeks. "Fine, don't give it to me." Leo looked nonchalant, then turned to Sophia, who was watching the show with her chin propped on her hand. "Let's go. Time to pack our bags and head back." This trip to Denver had been a whirlwind, but he'd gotten most of what he needed done, with a few unexpected gains. Sophia nodded and stood up from her chair. "What about Ivonne? Isn't she flying back with us?" "We'll go back to the hotel to get our stuff first. She's going to meet us there." "Oh." When the 3 of them arrived back at the hotel, Ivonne was already waiting. With her was her brother, Victor. After seeing Khloe, who was constantly bickering with Leo, and then the gentle, elegant, and sweet Sophia, he suddenly understood what his sister had meant. Maybe Leo really was in a position to say he wasn't interested in her. "What did my brother talk to you about?" On the plane, Ivonne was once again sitting next to Leo. Khloe and Sophia were in the row behind them. April Zhang had booked Leo and Yvonne's tickets before she knew Khloe and Sophia were coming, and after they boarded, neither of them suggested switching seats. "He told me to take good care of you," Leo said, lounging in his seat with an eye mask on, not even turning his head. "Said you were all alone, far from home, and pitiful." Victor had driven them to the airport. Before they went inside, he'd pulled Leo aside for a chat while they smoked. That's what Yvonne was curious about. She obviously didn't believe Leo's story, but didn't bother to argue. Instead, she suddenly asked, And did you agree? Nope, Leo answered bluntly. Huh, I knew it. Ivonne scoffed, then fell silent, putting on her headphones to listen to music. The flight from Denver to the Pacific Northwest was only a few hours. Leo was happy for the quiet. He'd gone to bed late last night and been woken up by Rosalind's call early this morning. This was a good chance to catch up on sleep. Sophia, have you noticed? Khloe whispered from the row behind. The way Yvonne looks at Leo today is weird. It wasn't like that before. A woman's intuition was rarely wrong. Sophia glanced at the back of Leo's head, then said calmly, who knows? Maybe she suddenly discovered some special quality in him that made her see him in a new light. But don't worry about it. They probably don't have much to do with each other. With that, Sophia took out her own headphones. Want to listen together? She asked Khloe. Khloe shook her head. No thanks. I think I'm going to try to sleep. Sophia just smiled and put her headphones on, tuning out the world. Leo's Yuan was parked in the airport garage. Khloe's big Land Rover was there too. You guys take Yvonne back to campus, Leo said as they reached the cars. I have to stop by the office. Khloe looked confused. Didn't you say you had a class meeting tonight? Leo feigned surprise. Did I? I don't think so. He gently pushed Khloe toward her car. Go on, head back. I'll come find you as soon as I'm done. Reassured by his promise, Khloe got in her car. Though it felt a little awkward, Yvonne got in with her. Get back soon, Sophia called out. Leo gave her an okay sign, and she slid into the passenger seat of the Land Rover. After seeing them off, Leo walked back to his Yuan. Tucked under the windshield wiper was a small, glossy card. Local in call. He glanced at it. The girl on the card was pretty, he had to admit. But he knew these kinds of cards left on cars in public places were usually bait for a honey trap. Without a second thought, he flicked it into a nearby trash can. Spike, I'm back. Where are you guys? Leo, we're over at Apex Construction. You coming straight here? Yeah. Leo had gotten a message from Spike and Hank Yu just after he landed, telling him to call them. They hadn't said what it was about. Knowing them, if it was bad news, they would have said so outright. This kind of suspense usually meant good news. He didn't press for details, happy to wait for the surprise. It was a weekend, and by the time Leo arrived, it was already 6 in the evening. The Apex Tower was mostly empty, but the lights in the top-floor conference room were blazing, and he could hear hearty laughter echoing from inside. Leo pushed the door open, and the room fell silent. Leo's here, Hank Yu said, rising to greet him. Everyone else in the room stood up as well, broad smiles on their faces. What's with you guys? Leo teased. No weekend for you? Trying to experience the joys of the corporate grind. Don't even joke, Hank said, quickly stopping him. He guided Leo to the head of the table. A report was sitting in front of him. Leo, here's the progress on the Mill District renovation and the construction of the relocation housing. Take a look. Hank was beaming. Leo flipped through it casually. This fast. Both were massive projects. The city had given them 2.5 years to complete everything. Leo had ordered it done in 2. But according to the report, the main structures would be finished in a year, with full completion in just 1.5 years. Aha, Hank chuckled. And that's not even the best part. He pointed to another document. Leo picked it up. Invitation to bid for the Old Town redevelopment project. That's right, Hank said excitedly. The Housing Development Authority invited us to bid. I did some digging. We're the only company that was formally invited. The other interested companies mostly lack experience in this area. We've estimated that if we land this, our initial investment would only be about $800,000, with a profit of $1.3 million. And we can finish it within a year. $1.3 million. That was more than Apex Construction's total profit over the last 5 or 6 years combined. It wasn't a huge company, easily overlooked in the regional market. The only reason they'd landed the Mill District project was largely due to Leo's connections and his innovative plan for relocating the residents. If they really secured this new project, he could start thinking about expanding the company. Hank, Leo tossed the proposal onto the table and addressed him in a serious tone. I'm here. Send the redevelopment plan to Laura Ian. Have her run it by the corporate legal department to assess any risks. For the next while, have the quality control department make regular visits to the construction sites. I don't want any screw-ups. And you, sit down with the business and finance departments and map out all the potential financial risks. As Leo spoke, everyone was diligently taking notes. The people in this meeting were the key leaders of Apex Construction, and he had nothing to hide from them. Also, Leo paused, thinking, when it comes to construction, you're the expert. Once this project is secured, keep an eye out for any competitor companies that are struggling. We might be able to acquire them. The real estate industry was about to hit its peak. Before, Leo wouldn't have dared to step into this arena. But things were different now. Even if he couldn't be the primary developer, He could be a general contractor. As long as these redevelopment projects were done well, their reputation would be solidified, and they wouldn't have to worry about finding work. As Leo finished, a murmur of excited whispers filled the room. The idea of expansion was undoubtedly good news for them. Besides their fixed salaries, they all received a share of the company's annual profits. A bigger company with higher profits meant a bigger paycheck for everyone. After laying out the plans, Leo declared the meeting over. Most of the people filed out, leaving only Spike and Hank. "Hank," Leo said, his voice low, "honestly, how much money do we have in the company account right now?" After Leo acquired Apex Construction, it had only worked on 2 projects. One was the market at Mill District, which was his own project, so there was no real profit to speak of. The other was the Mill District redevelopment. The profit margin looked good on paper, but it required a massive upfront investment. The government would only release funds after each phase was completed, and their payment process was notoriously slow, a few weeks at best, but often much longer. The payments might be delayed, but the construction couldn't stop. They had to keep putting up their own money. Leo trusted Spike and Hank completely, so he'd been hands-off with their operations. Whenever they needed money, he had Silver Fir Capital provided, either as an investment or a loan. Since it was all his own company, he wasn't worried about the risk. Hearing Leo's question, Hank's expression turned uneasy. "About 30,000 left." 30,000? Leo was stunned. A construction company with only 30 grand in its account? That probably wasn't even enough to cover this month's payroll and material costs. Hank quickly added, "The first and second phase payments for the redevelopment project are already being processed. They should be here soon. Those 2 payments alone are over $1 million. No matter how confidently Hank spoke, Leo wasn't optimistic. He leaned back in his chair and looked at him. "How soon is soon? A day or 2? 3 or 4? Hank, you can't hide things from me." Spike couldn't take it anymore. "Hank, just tell him the truth. This can't go on." Leo knew there had to be something more to the story. Spike's words confirmed it. "Hank, I know what kind of person you are. If there's a problem, you can just tell me." Hank let out a heavy sigh and finally gave in. "Before you acquired Apex, we worked on a school project. At the time, an official introduced us to someone and wanted us to buy our raw materials, sand, stone, steel rebar from him. That kind of thing isn't unusual, we know the rules of the game. But the quality of his materials was nowhere near the standards required for a school, and his prices were sky high. After thinking it over, we refused. Because of that, we made a permanent enemy of that official. And it just so happens that a key part of this payment process requires his signature." Hank couldn't bring himself to look at Leo. It was something that had happened in the past, but Leo was the one facing the consequences now. He had to be furious. That's why Hank had kept it from him, hoping that no matter how long the official dragged his feet, he would eventually sign off on the payment. Leo didn't say anything. He stood up, walked over to Hank, and clapped him on the shoulder. "Hank, next time something like this happens, tell me sooner. Businessmen should strive for harmony, but we can't let people walk all over us. Email me that guy's information, get your payment request paperwork together, and I'll go get the money." With that, Leo walked out. Spike hurried after him. "Leo, this isn't Hank's fault. Spike had worked with Hank the longest and was the closest to him. When Spike was just a rookie in the industry, it was Hank who had taught him everything. He was worried Leo would hold a grudge against Hank and wanted to defend him." "I know," Leo said flatly. "I'm not angry about that. I'm angry that you guys ran into this kind of trouble and didn't tell me. If it were anyone else, they might think you two were skimming from the company." "No way. That would never happen." Spike promised. "I know." By now, they had reached the parking garage, and Leo stopped by his Yuan. "I know you wouldn't. Let's drop this for now. I'm heading back. You go talk to Hank. Tell him we're here to make money, but not without a conscience. I admire the integrity you guys showed back then. The Apex construction of the past had a backbone, and it still does now." After watching Leo's car leave the garage, Spike sprinted back to the office. Hank was still there, stewing in his own misery, chain-smoking. When Spike relayed what Leo had said, he finally stopped, a goofy grin spreading across his face. "All right, stop smiling," Spike said. "Let's go find a barbecue joint and have a few beers. You need a good night's sleep. You've got work to do tomorrow." After leaving the office, Leo drove back to campus. The class meeting was still going on. True to his commitment to being a good student, he decided to make an appearance. The meeting had already started. The class advisor, Mr. Liu, was up front, giving his usual speech about safety. Leo called out permission to enter from the doorway. A surprised Mr. Liu had to adjust his glasses. Leo White was a rare sight indeed. "Come in." Leo walked over and sat down with the guys from dorm 718. The 3 of them, who had been quiet, immediately started chattering. "Leo, where have you been having fun all this time? Take us with you next time. And did you hear? Hollywood hit the jackpot. Like she's seriously rich now. Leo just rested his head on the desk, listening to their chatter and pretending he didn't hear. Shane and Mark, finding their efforts futile, eventually gave up. After the meeting, they asked Leo if he was coming back to the dorm tonight and if he wanted to grab dinner. It had been a while since they'd all hung out. Before Leo could answer, Hollywood walked over. Leo, I have something I want to ask you. Not free. Leo cut her off decisively. He didn't want any rumors starting between them. That would be a real headache. Holly froze, embarrassed. Thankfully, Richie Ho came over at that moment. Holly, go ask the girls if they're interested in a spring outing. I'll handle the guys. Richie then looked at Leo. What about you, mister? Big shot? Interested. Richie's words made Leo realize it was true. Spring was here. Let's go, Holly said. Okay, I'll go ask the girls. Oh, right. Holly turned to Leo. Mister White, since you're so rich, how about you graciously sponsor this event for us? We're all poor, but you've got money. She covered her mouth, giggling. After some time off, she no longer looked as exhausted as she had at the start of the semester. The dark circles under her eyes were gone. The benefits of being young. That's not out of the question. No one expected Leo to agree. As everyone stared at him, he simply said, go find out who wants to go first. Just tell them this trip is on me. Richie suspected it wasn't that simple, but as long as Leo was paying, it was a good thing. He didn't ask any more questions and readily agreed. Just then, Leo's phone rang. It was Sophia, asking where he was and if he wanted to have dinner. Not tonight. You and Khloe go ahead and eat. I might need you to pick me up later. Hanging up, Leo looked at Shane and the others. Let's go. Dinner and drinks. Young men don't have many worries. When they drink, they boast. Leo had already had 2 rounds of drinks in Denver, but he'd been careful not to overdo it. He was in an unfamiliar place, surrounded by people with their own agendas. Getting drunk would have been a mistake. But with Shane and his roommates, there were no such concerns. Leo didn't know how much he drank. All he knew was that by the end, besides Chad, both Mark and Shane were under the table. Shane was still mumbling, this is nothing. Keep it coming. His eyes clamped shut the entire time. Chad shook his head to clear it. Leo, let's call a night. We have class tomorrow. His tolerance was high, and he was still coherent. Leo nodded. He tried to stand, but a wave of dizziness nearly sent him to the floor. He didn't force it. He sent a quick text to Sophia, then looked at Chad. Want me to call a couple of people to help you get them back? Chad shook his head. Nah, no need. He stood up, slung an arm of each of his friends over his shoulders, and started walking toward the campus gate. He turned back to call out to Leo. You get back soon too, Leo. We'll do this again sometime. Oh, and remember to pay the bill. Leo gave him an okay sign. Then he couldn't hold back any longer and collapsed onto the table. He was in a daze when he felt someone gently shaking him. He cracked open an eye, then immediately shut it again. The familiar scent of her shampoo was intoxicating. Though his head was spinning, he was still lucid. Sophia managed to get him into the car without much trouble. Just how much did you drink? Khloe, who had come along, grumbled. Hey, you haven't paid yet. The owner of the barbecue joint called out, hurrying after them. Huh, Khloe said, surprised. Leo didn't even open his eyes. He just murmured, Beauty, help me pay up. It feels good to be a gold digger for once. Khloe helplessly pinched his ear and went to settle the bill. Once she was gone, Sophia turned to look at Leo. Are you really drunk, or are you faking it? Leo didn't answer. He seemed to have fallen asleep. Sophia sighed and turned up the heat in the car. Khloe returned with a bottle of water, clearly for Leo. It was only a 3 to 5 minute drive from the barbecue joint to their apartment. Soon, they were home. The two of them supported Leo inside. As soon as he was through the door, he collapsed onto the sofa. It's fine, he mumbled. You guys go to sleep. I'll be fine after a bit. Khloe's face flushed. Ignoring the fact that Sophia was still there, she started to take off Leo's clothes and filled the bathtub with water. You bastard, you did this on purpose. Khloe seethed, looking at Leo's tightly closed eyes. But she still helped Sophia get him in the tub. Perhaps because of the heat from the bath, both their foreheads were beaded with sweat. Sophia's face gradually turned red, and her breathing quickened. Khloe, he's all yours. I'm out of here. She fled the bathroom as if escaping a fire. Leo, whether intentionally or not, slapped the water with his hand. The splash was high, drenching Khloe's clothes. Jerk! Sophia leaned against the wall, just outside the door, gasping for breath, feeling as if all her strength had been drained. If Khloe hadn't been there, she wouldn't have reacted this way. But Khloe was there. This was too much. Way too much. Oh! Hearing Khloe's yelp from the bathroom, Sophia couldn't resist peeking through the crack in the door. Khloe's clothes were soaked. She'd only been wearing a thin camisole underneath. Now it was plastered to her body. A white camisole. It was easy to see the lingerie beneath. The worst part was that Leo was still splashing, which was what had made Khloe cry out. A moment later, Khloe ran out of the bathroom. Her clothes were completely soaked, and her bra was gone. Her long, fair legs were bare, and she was wearing only a pair of pink panties. There were even bubbles of body wash on her face. Sophia was stunned, her jaw dropping. "You guys!" She even swallowed hard. "You are really wild." Khloe's already flushed face turned a deeper shade of red. She stammered, unable to come up with a rebuttal. Looking at Sophia's leisurely expression, a wicked thought popped into her head. "You know what, Sophia? I'm done with him. He could do whatever he wants. I'm going to bed. You should get some sleep too." With that, she disappeared into her room. Sophia was left completely bewildered. She was just leaving him? Leo was still soaking in the bathtub. After waiting a few minutes and hearing no movement from Khloe, Sophia worried that something might happen to Leo. She sighed, stood up from a sofa, and walked toward the bathroom. But as soon as she stepped inside, Khloe blocked her way. Not only that, Khloe had taken down the shower head. After checking that the temperature was right, she aimed it straight at Sophia. "Khloe!" Sophia cried, trying to shield herself, but Khloe wouldn't stop. "That's what you get for laughing at me." Because the heat was on in the house, both of them were dressed in light clothing. Sophia's temper flared, and she started splashing water from the tub back at Khloe. Soon, the bathroom was filled with giggles and a scene of boundless spring beauty. Leo squinted, wondering if he should pretend to wake up. He had to admit, it was a beautiful sight. The bathroom was big enough for a water fight, no problem. After a while, they seemed to tire out and stopped. "Okay, stop messing around," Khloe said, taking 3 bath towels from the cabinet. She wrapped one around herself, handed one to Sophia, and threw the last one directly over Leo's head. "Stop pretending. I saw you open your eyes." Leo sheepishly pulled the towel down. "So, maybe I should go drinking again tomorrow night." "In your dreams." Khloe shot him a glare and walked out. Sophia just shrugged, but before she left, she blew Leo a kiss. Leo leaned back against the tub, an involuntary smile spreading across his face. Youth, it was a wonderful thing, and the thought that he would be receiving his birthday present in just over a month made it even better. When Leo finally emerged from the bathroom, the living room was empty. Sophia and Khloe had gone to their respective rooms. Humming a tune, Leo walked into his own bedroom. The thought of a future where they all slept in the same bed. It didn't seem so impossible anymore. The next day, Hank emailed the relevant payment documents to Leo. Adhering to the principle of trying politeness before force, Leo first went to see the official who was refusing to sign. "Director Zhang, we need your signature to process the payment for this phase of the project," Leo said with a brilliant smile, holding out the paperwork. But Director Zhang didn't even look at it. "Mr. White, I'm truly sorry. It's not that I don't want to sign, but the inspection unit hasn't given me their report yet. I can't sign without it. And as you can see, I have a mountain of work to deal with here. Why don't you wait a little longer? I'll give them a nudge." This was the same excuse he had given Hank many times. The report he claimed to be missing had been delivered to him long ago. He was just pretending not to know. In short, his message was clear: I'm not signing. What are you going to do about it? There wasn't much Leo could do to him. If he wouldn't sign, he wouldn't sign. It wasn't the end of the world. There was no point in wasting time arguing. Leo left the office without another word. As soon as he was out the door, he heard Director Zhang spit. What piece of work? No sense at all. He can just wait. He knew Leo wasn't far. He'd said it for him to hear. Even with Leo's good temper, he was starting to get angry. Fine, he would wait. After leaving the building, Leo called Julian Jiang. Some things were better handled by an outsider. Leo had considered contacting a senior official like Mr. Ho for help, but after some thought, he decided against it. His role was that of a businessman. Getting too close to government officials could affect their careers. It was better to solve this with a businessman's methods. Director Zhang said he had no sense. Fine, he'd send someone who did. When Julian heard the story, he was intrigued. It seemed he had a natural affinity for causing trouble. "When do you think would be a good time to come over?" Leo asked. "Let's wait a bit," Julian said. Coming now would be too obvious. Leo could have protested by halting construction on the Mill District project, but that would burn his bridges completely. He likely wouldn't get any future contracts. He didn't want one mistake to ruin everything. The future was long. Just as he ended the call with Julian, his phone rang again. It was Hank. It seemed he knew things hadn't gone well. "Leo, what if we pull some strings, maybe send some local specialties his way?" In his view, this was just part of the game. This guy just wanted a bigger cut than most. "We'll see," Leo said. "By the way, you said that Materials Factory was run by his brother, and he has a stake in it, right? Yes. Hank was certain. Leo continued, go find out what other projects that factory has supplied. If their materials are faulty, there are bound to be quality issues. Look into it. Okay, Hank agreed, then hesitated for a moment. But if we do that, we'll make a permanent enemy of him. What if he has powerful people behind him? That's not your concern. Leo cut him off before he could finish. I understand. Leo understood the rules. In any industry, he respected the unwritten codes of conduct. But understanding the rules didn't mean he was a pushover to be bullied at will. Over the next few days, Hank's investigation turned up some interesting things. Director Zhang's position wasn't high, but his power was significant. Many projects required his signature for approval. He used this leverage to force many successful bidders to buy materials from his brother. According to the information Hank found, a bridge built 2 years ago had started to show cracks and signs of collapse after only a year in use. But the matter had been quietly swept under the rug. Just as Leo learned this, he received an unexpected call from Mr. Ho, the senior administrator. It seemed he knew what Leo was up to. Mr. Ho, what a surprise to hear from you. I heard about the payment issue with your project. I've already taken care of it. The funds should be transferred to your company's account soon. Also, the matter you're investigating, keep investigating. No matter who pressures you, ignore them. The team should have been cleaned up a long time ago. Some people have no bottom line. Leo could hear the anger in his voice. He grunted in acknowledgement and finally said, thank you. With his support, the payment issue would likely be resolved without any more trouble. Leo was in his office at the Apex Tower when he took the call, with Hank standing by. He didn't share the details of the conversation with Hank, just smiled. The money should be coming in soon. As for that bridge, I want you to dig deeper. Give me a list of all the people and companies involved, and find out if any other projects have similar issues. Hank knew Leo had powerful connections, so he didn't ask any more questions. The weather in March was perfect for an outing. After some planning by Yuan and Richie Ho, the finance department's spring trip was set for this weekend. Since Leo was paying, almost everyone decided to come. On Saturday morning, Leo arrived at the campus gate. Richie had arranged for 2 buses, and everyone was gathering there. After a semester together, they were all familiar with each other. Some had even started dating, holding hands sweetly. This time, Leo was on his own, so he naturally joined Shane and the others in complaining about all the happy couples. Leo, a friend of mine, wants to come along. Yuan suddenly approached him. Then let her come, he said. Since he was funding the trip, she thought it was best to ask him first. Okay, she'll be here soon. Just as Leo was about to get on the bus, he was surprised to see Ivonne Yuan walking up, attracting the attention of many of the guys along the way. Mark even nudged Shane's arm. Hey, there's your goddess. Shane glanced over, then quickly looked away. Former goddess. But what's she doing here? Who knows? Maybe just passing through, Mark said. But to everyone's surprise, she walked right toward the bus, and Holly even went to greet her. Yvonne, you're here. Get on the bus. Leo was stunned. The friend you were talking about was her. Of course, Holly said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. She's helped me out a lot lately. Yvonne smiled, her eyes crinkling. Not at all. If anything, I should be thanking you for giving me a job opportunity. She then looked at Leo. Leo, thanks for having me. Leo shot her an annoyed look. So you know your trouble. The strange atmosphere between Leo and Yvonne left the oblivious Holly feeling a bit awkward. She knew they knew each other, but she thought they weren't close. The current situation suggested otherwise. Well, let's get on the bus, she said, leading Yvonne aboard. The guys from dorm 718 were standing right next to Leo and saw the whole exchange. They looked at each other, wanting to ask, but not daring to. Finally, Shane broke the silence. Leo, you look a little unnatural, do I? Leo shot back. You must be seeing things. Let's go. Shane didn't move, his curiosity getting the better of him. The way Yvonne was looking at you seemed a little off. Is there something between you two? He trailed off, lost in thought. Off my big toe, Leo said irritably. He was just as surprised that Yvonne had come, and even more surprised that she was helping Holly. A rich girl like her, with no worries and endless money, shouldn't be looking for trouble. He couldn't figure it out, so he decided not to try. Almost everyone was here. Time to get on the bus. The ride from campus to their destination was over 2 hours. Having woken up so early, most people on the bus fell asleep. The few who were awake were on their phones. Leo was sitting next to Chad, who had fallen asleep the moment he got on the bus and was now snoring loud enough for the whole bus to hear. Leo couldn't sleep, so he just stared out the window. Suddenly, his phone vibrated. The seat next to me is empty. Coming over. The message was from Yvonne. She had initially sat with Holly, but Holly had gotten carsick and moved to the front, leaving the seat next to her vacant. Listening to Chad's thunderous snores, Leo found it impossible to say no. He carefully made his way over. Huh, men, she said with a wry smile as soon as he sat down. I thought you wouldn't come. You acting like this will make people think you have some ulterior motive with me. Ivonne covered her mouth and laughed. It's fine. I don't care about my reputation. Leo was speechless. He threw up his hands. Then what do you care about? Ivonne turned to look out the window, giving Leo a view of her near-perfect profile. She sighed. You know, right now, I don't think I care about anything. Leo didn't press her. He leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. Ivonne cracked the window open a little. As the bus moved, a breeze blew in, carrying the faint, fresh scent of Ivonne's perfume to where Leo sat. It wasn't the smell of shampoo. When they arrived at their destination, Richie gave a few instructions, and then everyone was free to do as they pleased. The campsite had plenty of activities, from pool tables to a soccer field. There was even an outdoor karaoke setup. There was no shortage of things to do. Leo wasn't interested in any of that. After buying a fishing rod from a nearby tackle shop, he grabbed a chair and went down to the river to fish. Holly took a few of the girls to prepare ingredients for a barbecue lunch. They didn't actually need to. Lunch had already been ordered, but she insisted it was for fun. Fun or not, Leo didn't know, but he knew for sure it wouldn't taste good. They probably wouldn't even marinate the fish to get rid of the muddy taste. He couldn't expect much from the rest. He sighed and focused on his fishing, trying to ignore them. Ivonne was popular wherever she went. Within minutes, she was chatting with a group of strangers. When they complimented her looks, she claimed it was all thanks to makeup and skincare, and even recommended some products, all affordable, mass-market brands. She even swore that the best brand was the one that was currently trending, without mentioning once that it was Holly's company. It was a subtle advertisement. When guys came over to flirt and asked for her number or AIM screen name, she politely and gracefully turned them down, in a way that left no room for resentment. While he was fishing, Leo got a call from Khloe. It was the weekend, so she'd slept in a little. Her voice on the phone was incredibly lazy. When are you coming back? I miss you, miss you. Leo saw his bobber sink. He quickly clamped the phone between his shoulder and ear and reached for the rod. Fish on. Hey, Khloe, what did you just say? You jerk, Leo. Khloe was suddenly furious. What are you doing? You're not even listening to me. I'm fishing. Want to come join me? Okay. Khloe agreed instantly. But a moment later, she sighed. Never mind. It's your class activity. It wouldn't be right for me to cling to you. You could take me next time. Okay, no problem, Leo said as he reeled the fish closer to the bank. But with the phone still on, he couldn't use the net. Just as he was about to say he had to go, someone scooped the fish up for him. It was a carp about 3 pounds. Not bad. Ivonne looked at it with delight, but had the good sense to stay quiet until Leo hung up the phone. Then she showered him with praise. I had no idea you could do this. Of course, Leo said smugly. I'm a pro at fishing. He raised an eyebrow at her. Right, mermaid? Ivonne stared straight at Leo, their eyes locking without a trace of shyness. Finally, a smile broke out on her face. I'm willing to get hooked, but you have to cast the line. She winked at him playfully. Don't worry, I won't tell Khloe and Sophia. What are you two doing here? Richie Ho walked over at that exact, inopportune moment. Whoa, Leo, did you catch that? Nice. He looked at the fish in the net, thoroughly impressed. Leo unhooked the fish. Take it to the restaurant owner. See if they can cook it up for us for lunch. You got it. Richie took the fish and headed toward the restaurant, leaving Leo and Ivonne alone again. So, Leo said, feigning ignorance. What were you just saying? Ivonne rolled her eyes at him. Nothing. You just keep doing your thing. She turned and walked away. Leo was happy to be left undisturbed. And so it went until noon. When Shane and the others called him for lunch, he finally packed up. Holly and the other girls brought over their barbecue creations. They were char black, and most people didn't dare try them. A few brave souls did. In any case, Leo was not going to be one of them. Leo, Shane asked during the meal, his inner gossip columnist surfacing again. What did Ivonne say to you when you were fishing today? That's grown-up business. Little kids should mind their own, Leo said, placing a piece of meat in Shane's bowl. Eat up. Seeing he wasn't going to get anything out of him, Shane dropped it and ate quietly. But he kept stealing glances at Ivonne, and a few times, he caught her looking at Leo. I knew it, he thought to himself. There's definitely something going on. Leo, the payment came through. At dusk, while Leo was gathering firewood, he got a call from Hank. He sounded ecstatic. Director Zhang also said he wants to treat you to a meal. What do you think? Anyone who reached his position was a smooth operator. The moment he received the notification not to delay the payment, he must have guessed that Leo was not someone to be trifled with. He'd already offended him. Now he was trying to make amends. Not free, Leo said bluntly. That's what I thought, Hank said with a laugh. I'll tell him that then. Leo, this $1 million, what should we? How should we use it? The company's money wasn't Leo's personal cash. He had the right to decide how it was used, but he couldn't just take it. He thought for a moment. First, pay back the loan from Silver Fir Capital. Then, give out some bonuses based on everyone's performance over the last few months. You could decide who gets what. Put the rest in the company account. We'll need it for expansion and for upfront costs on future bids. After ending the call with Hank, Leo threw a pile of wood onto the bonfire heap, preparing for the evening's festivities. Spring came early in the south. By April, though there was still a chill in the night air, it was much better. Sitting by the fire, it didn't feel cold at all. Singing songs with the river breeze blowing. This was what a good college experience was all about. All right, the first drink is a toast to Leo, to thank him for sponsoring this trip. Richie Ho raised his cup, proposing a toast to the crowd. Thanks, Leo, everyone else echoed. Leo took a sip before speaking. Don't thank me. Thank fate for bringing us all together. Maybe this is just destiny. In his past life, Leo had never gone to college, never experienced this kind of pure, simple joy. In this life, it seemed not bad at all. Leo, can I ask you a nosy question? After a few drinks, someone, emboldened by the alcohol, asked him. In the firelight, their face was flushed. And if I say no, you won't ask. Leo replied casually. A wave of laughter rippled through the group. Okay, I'll ask anyway. You and Khloe Jiang were high school classmates. What did you two get together? It wasn't just Ivonne. Many others were curious too. The group fell silent, all eyes on Leo. When he had first arrived at the university, Khloe had waited for him at the school gate for hours in her Land Rover. A beautiful woman in a luxury car. It had been a huge visual shock for a bunch of kids fresh out of high school. The question of who the beautiful woman was and who she was waiting for had dominated the school forums for a long time. Later, everyone found out she was waiting for Leo, which had made him the public enemy of every guy on campus for a while. High school stuff. Who remembers? Leo's tone was placid as he took a sip from his can of beer. Ivonne rested her chin on her hand, watching him from the side. She didn't press the issue. When a group of young people get together, there's no end to the conversation. Leo, who had been trying to blend in, had inexplicably become the center of attention without saying a word. Flattery, deliberate ingratiation, brown-nosing, Leo had heard it all tonight. It strangely made him feel like some villainous rich kid from a movie. All right, you guys have fun. I'm going to bed. It was just past 9, but they were still going strong. Leo didn't want to stay up any later. Too many compliments would really go to his head. Besides, with him here, they seemed constrained. They were all the same age. He didn't know what the problem was. Leo, are you okay? Should we walk you back? Though he'd had a few beers, Leo wasn't drunk enough to need an escort. He waved off Shane's offer. Ivonne sat silently, watching him leave. She'd also had quite a bit to drink tonight, all from enthusiastic underclassmen toasting her, calling her sis, and saying they'd admired her for ages. It was impossible to refuse. Of course, the main reason was that she had wanted to drink. After getting back to his room, Leo habitually called Sophia. She picked up on the first ring. He thought for a moment she had been holding her phone, waiting for his call, and a wave of warmth spread through him. But then she spoke, and he froze. I was just about to call you. Where are the soy sauce and salt? You guys haven't eaten yet? Leo looked at the time. It was almost 10. Sophia answered cheerfully, nope. Our meal ticket and personal chef wasn't here, so we couldn't find anything to eat. We've just been starving. After Sophia finished, Leo heard Khloe's voice in the background. That's right. If you ever ditch us and go out alone again, you can just wait for us to starve to death. Her voice was puffed up with indignation, which was incredibly cute. Leo leaned against the railing of the guest house window, the river breeze on his face. He could still hear bursts of laughter from the bonfire. After a moment of silence, he said softly, I won't. Never again. That's better, Khloe said, but then added, and drink less. And don't go messing around after drinking. Hearing her warning tone, Leo couldn't help but laugh. Messing around with what? I don't understand. You bad man. You know exactly what I mean, Khloe said, too embarrassed to continue. I'm hanging up now. Sophia and I are going to make dinner. If it had just been Khloe, Leo would have told her to forget it. The cost of renovating the kitchen would be one thing, but he didn't want to cause trouble for the fire department. But with Sophia there, it would be fine. Hearing the dial tone, Leo blinked. Had he forgotten to say something? On the other end, Sophia was also stunned, staring blankly at Khloe. After a moment, she asked, did he say where the soy sauce and salt are? Khloe blinked back at her. No. It's fine, Khloe said. Boiled vegetables aren't so bad. Sophia thought about it and agreed. She didn't dwell on it. Boiled cabbage it was. Half an hour later, as they were eating, Khloe suddenly put down her chopsticks and stared at Sophia, who had long since declared she was full. Sophia, I miss Leo. Sophia was quiet for a moment. Then her stomach rumbled loudly. Her face fell into a frown. I miss him too. As the two of them sat there, looking at each other in silent misery, a phone rang. Khloe checked. It was hers. She picked it up, confused. Why would April Zhang be calling her this late? She answered anyway. April, what's up? Khloe, open the door. Leo asked me to bring you guys some food. Khloe had the call on speaker. Before she could react, Sophia had already sprinted to the door. Peeking through the peephole, she saw April holding 2 large bags of food. Thank you, April, Sophia said politely as she opened the door. April covered her mouth with a yawn. No problem. You guys eat. I'm heading back. Just call me if you need anything. She handed the bags to Sophia and turned to leave. Sophia closed the door and brought the bags to the dining table. Khloe couldn't wait any longer and immediately started opening them. Spicy tacos, kebabs, fried chicken, steamed sea bass. Leo didn't doubt Sophia's cooking skills, but it had been a while since they'd cooked a real meal at home. Many of their spices were long gone. You can't make a masterpiece out of an empty pantry. He knew their personalities. If he wasn't around in the evening, they were unlikely to go out. That's why he'd arranged for April Zhang to drop off some food. After he got her text confirming the delivery, he collapsed on his bed. But not long after, a soft tapping sound came from the door. At first, Leo thought he was dreaming it. Then it came again. Everyone else on the trip was sharing a room, 2 to a bed. Only Leo had a room to himself. He'd paid for it, so no one complained. Wearing nothing but a pair of boxer shorts, Leo rubbed his eyes and stumbled out of bed. He peered through the peephole, but saw nothing. Just as he was about to write it off as a prank, the tapping returned. As brave as Leo usually was, the situation gave him a slight chill. Still, he gathered his courage and opened the door. Whoa, what's wrong with you? Yvonne Yuan was crumpled on the floor by his door, looking miserable. Her eyes were half closed, and a thick wave of alcohol rolled off her. Leo frowned but helped her inside and onto the sofa. He got her a glass of warm water. Yvonne just leaned back against the cushions, motionless. Her already stunning face was flushed a deep crimson, her lips slightly parted in a way that was surprisingly alluring. Leo propped her up. After calling her name a couple of times, she managed to pry her eyes open. She saw Leo, but didn't speak, just obediently let him tip the water in her mouth. His movements were a little rough, but it got the job done. Leo sighed, ran a towel under warm water, and gently wiped her face. Then he half lifted, half dragged her over to the bed and dropped her onto it. He could hear her breathing quicken, but she remained silent. He set the AC to a comfortable 75 degrees, pulled the covers over her, and shut off the lights. The room plunged into darkness. Leo fumbled his way back to the sofa. It was small, forcing him to curl into a ball. The scent Yvonne had left behind, a mixture of perfume and stale liquor, wasn't exactly pleasant, but Leo wasn't one to fuss over details. He closed his eyes. What a mess, he thought. He knew the most sensible thing to do was call Holly one and have her take Yvonne back to their room. But the thought of explaining why Yvonne was in his room in the first place was exhausting. He couldn't be bothered. So, this was the solution. In fact, Holly had seen Yvonne knock on Leo's door. If she hadn't, she would have been calling Yvonne's phone in a panic by now. Instead, she just chuckled to herself and pretended she hadn't seen a thing. She did wonder, though, how Leo was going to explain this to Sophia. And right, Khloe, on second thought, Holly realized he probably wouldn't have to explain anything at all. Leo was a light sleeper. In the middle of the night, he sensed someone approaching. The footsteps were incredibly soft. Knowing there were only 2 of them in the room, he didn't bother moving. What was going to happen? He'd lose his virtue. That would almost be a relief. He could just tell everyone he'd been forced. But he was getting ahead of himself. A moment later, a blanket was gently draped over him. So much for that. His virtue was safe. For some reason, Leo let out a soft sigh. Was that disappointment? He immediately shut down the thought. No, it's just the alcohol in the air. A normal, red-blooded guy's reaction. I'm a man of integrity. After covering Leo, Yvonne didn't leave. Using the faint glow of her cell phone screen, she studied his face. She stayed like that for a long time, lost in thought. Leo felt something wet on his cheek, and then the footsteps slowly receded. The next morning, when Leo woke up, he was alone. He didn't think much of it, just stretched his limbs with a groan and climbed off the sofa. His whole body ached. He headed to the bathroom to wash up. It hadn't been a great night's sleep. When he saw Yvonne again, her gaze seemed even more resentful. She wouldn't say a word to him. Hollywood saw it all, her mind instantly spinning of a whole season's worth of daytime drama. The day's activity was simple. Hang out by the river in the morning, have lunch, and then head back to campus. As Leo was lounging aimlessly by the water, Holly, driven by curiosity, finally approached him. "Hey, Leo." Hearing her voice, Leo knew trouble was brewing. He ignored her, dragging his lounge chair a few feet away. But Holly was persistent. "I saw Ivonne go into your room last night." Leo shot her a sidelong glance. "You must have been seeing things." "I slept alone." "Slept great, actually." Holly snorted, a laugh like a honking goose escaping her. "If it weren't for those dark circles under your eyes, I might have actually believed you." "So last night," her eyes, full of gossip, were fixed on him. "What about last night?" "We just slept," Leo said bluntly. Just then, Ivonne walked over. Holly immediately called out to her in a stage whisper. "Ivonne, Leo said you two slept together last night." Ivonne flinched, her eyes darting around. Thankfully, no one else was close enough to hear. She decided not to deny it. "That's right. He slept his way, and I slept mine. We just slept." "Huh." Holly's jaw dropped. "No way." She looked at Leo with a new, disdainful expression, as if questioning his very manhood. "Holly, you wipe that filthy look off your face right now, or I swear I'll pluck your eyeballs out," Leo growled, fed up. Holly stuck her tongue out and scurried away. But it wasn't just her. Even Ivonne was looking at him strangely. And before Leo could say anything, she spoke. "Go ahead, gouge my eyes out," she said softly. "It'd be one more reason to latch onto you for the rest of my life." After last night, Ivonne seemed to have found a new boldness. With no one else around, she dared to say something so outrageously intense. Leo, relaxing in his lounge chair with sunglasses on, didn't respond. Unexpectedly, Ivonne reached out and took his sunglasses off. The sudden glare forced him to sit up. "Huh? What did you say?" Seeing his shameless act, Ivonne glared at him, her voice a low, haunting whisper. "I said go ahead, gouge my eyes out. I want to be your problem for the rest of my life." She paused. "Don't worry, I won't fight for a title." "Don't be ridiculous," Leo said, snatching his sunglasses back and putting them on. He shook his head. "You wouldn't look good like that. It takes an incredible amount of courage for a girl to abandon her pride and chase an answer she knows will never be hers." Maybe it was more than courage. Maybe it was a borderline obsessive fixation. On the way back to Riverbend, Leo was originally sitting with Shane Sia. Midway through the bus ride, Ivonne marched up and forcefully swapped seats with him. Shane could only shoot a wounded look at Leo, who completely ignored him. Mumbling jerk, Shane got up. After Ivonne offered a crisp, "Thank you," he added asshole under his breath and shuffled to the back of the bus. Hee. Ivonne giggled, leaning closer to Leo. "What do you think would happen," she said slyly, "if I left a strand of my hair on your shoulder, and Khloe saw it when you got back?" Leo didn't even turn his head. "What's so bad about being a decent human being? Why do you have to act like a dog?" "Are you calling me a dog?" Ivonne bristled. Leo glanced at her. "I'm just advising you to act like a person." Ivonne fell silent, just turning to watch him. Leo was happy for the quiet. He closed his eyes, at peace with the world. He was drifting off when an earbud was suddenly pushed into his ear. The music was soothing, a long melodic track. It was Coldplay's Yellow, a song that was in a league of its own no matter when you heard it. Out of respect for the song, Leo didn't take it out. He drifted off to sleep. If it weren't for the increasing weight on his shoulder, he might have slept longer. "Hey," Leo said, not in the best of moods. He nudged her awake. "Huh? Are we there?" Ivonne mumbled, rubbing her eyes. "Not yet," Leo said. "You were just hurting me." Ivonne froze. That sentence sounded weird. Leo stretched his shoulder. He checked discreetly. Thankfully, she didn't seem to shed. Now fully awake, Ivonne checked her phone. About half an hour until they reached campus. The rest of the ride was silent. As more people woke up, the bus grew louder. "When are you going to take me out to eat?" Ivonne asked. Leo answered with a straight face. "I'm really busy. I don't think I'll have any time soon." Ivonne didn't mind. "That's fine. I'll just get in line. Let me know when you're free." Seeing that he didn't refuse, she quickly added, "So I'll take that as a yes?" Leo threw up his hands. "Do whatever you want." Ivonne broke into a smile. As they neared the campus entrance, Leo finally said, "It's a tangled mess that can't be unsnarled. You don't have to wait." Some things were doomed from the start. A conclusion that would never arrive. Was Leo busy? Incredibly. He was busy spending time with Khloe and Sophia. He only squeezed in time to deal with his companies. He didn't even care that much if business was booming. A person has to know when to be content. And Leo was very content. He was even planning to retire by 30. Ivonne was beautiful, but the world was full of beautiful people. The only ones who had ever moved his heart were Khloe and Sophia. It was a long-held habit. They were his youth, and they were the rest of his life. So when Ivonne said she would wait, Even for something as simple as a meal, it might truly be a day that would never come. I can't give you the happiness you deserve, nor the romance you're entitled to. A sad smile touched Yvonne's lips, her beautiful face tinged with melancholy. Her voice was soft. Happiness shouldn't be defined by others. She rubbed her eyes, maybe wiping away tears, maybe just dust. Leo watched as her eyes gradually turned red. She continued, sometimes you just want to be stubborn, just to have something to look forward to, even if you know that expectation is out of reach. She took a deep breath and looked directly into Leo's eyes, without a trace of fear or hesitation. Maybe one day, I won't want to wait anymore. And when that day comes, maybe I'll try to forget who you are, what your name is. The bus stopped. Yvonne was the first one off. Shane and the others looked on, confused. Something was off about Yvonne. Just as she got off the bus, she ran into a familiar face. Yvonne, what are you doing here? Khloe asked, surprised. Yvonne quickly composed herself, her face returning to its usual sunny confidence. Oh, I was just in the area and hitched a ride back. I gotta run, Khloe. See ya. Khloe sensed something was wrong, but she couldn't very well hold her there. She just waved and said goodbye, then turned her hopeful gaze back to the bus door, waiting for Leo. He had texted her his arrival time, but she hadn't expected him to come meet him. The moment she saw Leo step off the bus, she rushed forward, latching onto his arm like a koala bear. Oh, whoa. The finance majors who saw the scene erupted in a chorus of hoots and whistles. What? Never seen a couple before? Leo said, grabbing Khloe's hand. Let's go. He pulled her away. If they stayed any longer, some smartass was bound to ask why Yvonne had left in such a hurry. Leo. Once they were away from the crowd, Khloe jumped onto his back, tickling his ear with her hair. That tickles, stop it. What can I do for you, ma'am? Khloe snorted, then asked, why was Yvonne on your bus? Tell me. The truth. Did you two do anything? Leo kept walking, hoisting her higher on his back so she wouldn't fall. Was the food I had sent over last night good? It was delicious, Khloe said, then realized his trick. She pinched his ear. You're trying to change the subject. You're guilty, aren't you? Nonsense. Leo shot back. A clear conscience fears no accusation. So, what are we having for dinner tonight? Leo, you're changing the subject again. Khloe squirmed playfully on his back, holding on tight. Leo's affection for her was blatant and unapologetic. He had never intended to hide it from her. Once Khloe had calmed down a bit, he said, it was nothing, really. She got drunk last night and passed out in front of my door. What? Khloe was stunned, frantically messing up his hair. You took her into your room. Khloe let out a frustrated scream. What happened? Nothing happened. I slept on the sofa all night. Hearing this, Khloe finally let out a sigh of relief, patting her chest as if to say, thank God, thank God. But she still put on a fierce act. A boy has to protect himself when he's out there. You hear me? You have to remember, you're my man. Leo patted her, but not a bad feel. Okay, my little woman. Let's go home. He broke into a little jog, and Khloe hugged him even tighter, shouting slower, slower. When Leo and Khloe got back, Sophia had already cooked dinner. She looked at Leo with a triumphant expression, as if proving that her skills were, in fact, still top-notch. Leo saw through it, but said nothing, simply sitting down and picking up his chopsticks. So, how is it? Sophia asked eagerly. Not bad, Leo said, try another dish. Everything was edible. After getting Leo's approval, Sophia beamed. Without even taking off her apron, she sat down. The table was small, just big enough for the three of them. Life was warm and cozy. About 2 weeks passed like this. The weather in the Pacific Northwest started to warm up. Leo was sitting in on one of Sophia's classes at the university when his phone vibrated. He gave Sophia a nod and slipped out the back door. Hey, what's up? Leo, there's been a development with that director Zhang we were investigating. Besides that bridge project, he was involved in several other developments. I pulled the construction monitoring and acceptance reports through some channels. They all have problems. I've got all the evidence ready. What's the plan? Leo hadn't forgotten. Over the past couple of weeks, Director Zhang had tried to contact him multiple times, but Leo had always dodged him with some excuse. They weren't close. There was no need to build a relationship. Hank, email the files to me. You don't need to worry about the rest. Also, how are the preparations for the new bid going? The bid package has been submitted, Hank replied. Now we just wait for the official notice. Leo grunted in acknowledgement. When the bell rang, signaling the end of class, he gave a few more instructions and hung up. Sophia walked out of the classroom, books in her arms. What was that about? She asked. Leo shook his head. Apex Construction is bidding on a project. They were just giving me an update. Sophia said, oh, and didn't press further. Then she seemed to remember something. By the way, are you free this weekend? I need you to come to the hospital with me. The word hospital made Leo's heart skip a beat. He immediately looked at Sophia. Are you not feeling well? He reached out to touch her forehead, as if in his mind, feeling sick always meant having a fever. Sophia slapped his hand away and couldn't help but laugh. I'm fine. It's my cousin's kid. He's sick in the hospital, and I want to go visit. Leo breathed a sigh of relief and quickly agreed. Of course. The weekend arrived quickly. When Khloe heard that Leo and Sophia were going to the hospital, she insisted on coming along, complaining that she'd be bored by herself. They had no choice but to bring her. The strong smell of disinfectant in the hospital wasn't pleasant. Leo, for one, hated it. Carrying bags of fruit, Leo and Khloe followed Sophia to the inpatient wing. The hospital was always crowded, no matter the time. Even the pediatric section, beds lined the hallways. Sophia's nephew was in a shared room. All 4 beds were occupied. On the way, Sophia had explained to Leo that her cousin's family had been fairly well off, but the child's illness had wiped out nearly all their savings. Relatives had pitched in, but his condition hadn't improved. This was 2005. The Affordable Care Act was years away. Getting sick meant paying for it out of your own pocket. It was a terrifying prospect. Dana, is Liam doing any better? Sophia asked as she entered the room, walking straight toward a middle-aged woman. If Sophia hadn't told him that her cousin was only 7 years older than her, he never would have guessed she was barely 30. The lines around her eyes were deep, her face sallow. It could have been malnutrition or exhaustion, or probably both. She brightened when she saw Sophia. Sophia, what are you doing here? Sit. She rushed to clear off the cot next to the bed, which was piled high with blankets and other things. Dana, don't trouble yourself, Sophia said, stopping her. I just came with some friends to see Liam. Leo and Khloe handed over the fruit. Dana seemed almost embarrassed. Hi. Hello. Dana, how's Liam's condition now? Leo asked casually. Liam was just over a year old and had been diagnosed with kidney stones. Delayed treatment had led to a cascade of other illnesses. For any family, it was a devastating blow. Dana sighed. She put the fruit in the bedside cabinet and said, We've tried so many things, but nothing's worked. A doctor in L. Suggested we come up here and try our luck. As they were talking, Liam woke up and started crying. Dana immediately went to mix him some formula. Leo's eyes drifted to the can. The moment he recognized the brand, his brow furrowed. Heartland Farms. Leo remembered this story all too well. The news had been everywhere. Dana, has Liam always been on this brand of formula? Dana didn't know why he was asking. Without stopping what she was doing or even turning around, she said, Yeah, everyone says it's a good brand, and the price is reasonable. Leo shot Sophia a look, signaling her to step outside with him. Sophia understood. Once they were out of the room, she asked, What's wrong? Ugh, Leo sighed. Find a way to get Dana to switch to a different brand of formula, then get the can she's using now. If you can't, at least get a sample. Hearing this, Sophia's brow furrowed as well. You think there's a problem with the formula? Leo remembered the Heartland Farms scandal breaking around 2008. The official story was that a specific batch had been contaminated with melamine. Before that, the quality was supposed to have been fine, but it was worth testing, just in case. Better safe than sorry. Sophia nodded, understanding, but her expression remained grave. If that's true, then what? They're a huge company, the face of American-made formula. If a scandal like this breaks. Leo sighed with her. We don't know anything for sure yet. Let's get it tested first. Sophia nodded again. After she went back into the room, Leo made a series of calls. Julian Jiang in L. Victor Yuan in Denver, and Connor's son right there in the Pacific Northwest. He asked them to have people buy some Heartland Farms formula from different parts of the country and have it tested. Until the results were in, it had to be kept strictly confidential. They didn't know what was happening, but they all agreed. Just as Leo finished his calls, Sophia came out of the room holding a can of formula, the one Liam had just been drinking. I accidentally knocked over Liam's formula, she said to Leo. Khloe and I are going to go buy him a new can. You want to come? Let's go. When Leo got the lab report, he chain-smoked several cigarettes. He called Julian and Victor again, stressing that this information absolutely could not leak. They understood the gravity of the situation and swore their silence. Leo, this. Hanky was standing next to him, his face pale. The implications were enormous. Shouldn't we go public with this? Leo shook his head. If only it were that simple. A massive corporation's crisis management team wasn't for show. One wrong move, and they could flip the script, accuse him of a smear campaign, of maliciously attacking a proud American brand. Once that label was stuck on you, it was impossible to peel off. and many people in power wouldn't want to see a story like this come out. Heartland Farms wasn't just sold domestically, it was exported. If this was confirmed, the international fallout would be catastrophic. The American dairy industry would face a devastating blow, decades of development wiped out overnight. It wouldn't just be dairy. The credibility of nearly all American food products on the international stage would be shattered. A whole chain of production lines and subsidiary industries would face a brutal winter. Leo's best option was to pretend he knew nothing. It had little to do with him and wouldn't affect his own ventures. But when he thought of Liam, of his family's savings being wiped out to pay for his treatment, he couldn't help but think of how many other children might be in the same situation. If this wasn't resolved, there would only be more. A sick feeling settled in his stomach. Leo knew he was no saint, but he wasn't rotten to the core. He couldn't just stand by and do nothing. After some thought, he called Ethan Jiang. When in doubt, call the big boss. Ethan was surprised to get a call from Leo so late. He'd been traveling all over the country recently, scouting markets and busy with his asset restructuring. After Leo explained the situation, Ethan fell silent. A long time passed before he finally spoke, his voice heavy. I'm suddenly regretting I answered this call. It seemed he was getting a headache too. They both understood the severity of the situation. The government was focused on economic growth, especially on building up domestic brands and expanding into international markets. Negative news involving a major brand like this was practically forbidden. Ethan sighed. You stay out of this for now. Let me think about how to handle it. Before he could continue, Leo cut in. You will handle it, right? Ethan didn't give a clear answer. Instead, he said 1 month. 1 month at most. How many international brand distribution rights you can acquire in that time is your business. With the collapse of a domestic brand's reputation, the market share for international brands was bound to explode. No parent would take chances with products for their children. Ethan then added, I want to handle this as quickly as possible too, but there are too many interests involved. Who says it, when they say it, and who they say it to, it all has to be done with extreme care. If it's not handled perfectly, all your evidence will cease to be evidence. It will become a weapon they use against you. And they'll keep doing exactly what they're doing now, just waiting for the next person to discover it, and the cycle will repeat. Leo knew Ethan's character. That's why he called him. He had considered leaking it to the media himself, but few outlets would dare to run a negative story about such a massive corporation. They all feared legal repercussions. He himself had no real clout. No one would believe him. They could claim he bought counterfeit products, that their brand was FDA approved and America's most trusted, that it couldn't have such problems. They would turn it around and ask him why he was buying fakes. In the real world, this scandal had been a drawn-out affair, taking more than half a year before the truth finally came out because it could no longer be contained. Compared to that, 1 month was incredibly short. Leo shook his head, trying to clear it. Since Ethan had told him to wait, he would wait. A few days later, Leo was having dinner with Khloe and Sophia when Khloe suddenly brought something up. I think my dad is trying to become the international distributor for Heartland Farms. I have no idea what he's thinking. Sophia and Leo exchanged a look. Only the two of them knew about the formula. They hadn't told Khloe. With something this sensitive, the fewer people who knew, the better. Hearing her mention it, Sophia shot Leo a questioning glance. Logically, after learning the truth, Ethan should be steering clear of this. How could he possibly be getting involved? Leo wiped his mouth and asked casually, that distribution right must be hard to get, right? Totally, Khloe nodded. She had been keeping up with her father's activities. The competition was already fierce, but after my dad showed interest, it got even more intense. I don't get what's so special about a formula brand's distribution rights. It's not that popular overseas. Sophia, venture guess. Maybe it's because the American Brand Value Index is about to release their top 500 list for the year. Maybe they got word that Heartland might make the list. If Sophia hadn't mentioned it, Leo would have forgotten. He seemed to recall that the company had indeed received such an honor. It became a huge joke later. Who knows? Khloe pouted and went back to eating. That afternoon, Leo received a text message. Evergreen Capital acquires international distribution rights for Heartland Farms formula in a $300 million deal, poised to take American-made formula to the world. On the same day the news was announced, Heartland Farms Group declared that its joint venture with Fonterra, one of the world's largest dairy manufacturers, was officially operational. They were taking a crucial step toward aiming for leading international standards and joining the ranks of the world's most advanced. Heartland Farms stock price soared, hitting the daily limit. It seemed everyone was bullish on the future of American-made formula. At the same time, Leo got a call from Grayson Goo. Leo, my man, are you still serious about wanting the distribution rights for those international formula brands? The Goo family was a major player in international trade. They could open doors to the distribution rights of many big brands. Leo had previously only asked him to inquire, but at the time, no distributors were willing to sell. The formula market was a golden goose. But things are different now. Heartland's high-profile announcements would inevitably squeeze the already small market share of international brands in the country. So we're looking for a way out. I'm serious. Before this, Leo had been wondering about Ethan's strategy. But with Evergreen Capital's announcement, he was starting to see the picture. All the pieces were being set. It was almost time for the curtain to rise. He just didn't know how Ethan planned to reveal it all. How to eliminate this poison without causing a massive market crash or an international incident. And in the end, how to walk away as the silent hero. Grayson Goo's competition with Rosalind in Denver had been a resounding success. He was in a good mood lately, enjoying the rare sight of his cousin on the back foot. So, when he heard Leo was interested in being an international formula distributor, he kept his ear to the ground. Before, everyone was optimistic about the country's population growth. With so many newborns, the formula market was a seller's market. No one wanted to give up their share. But now, with a domestic brand on a powerful rise, promising quality and affordability, the foreign brands were facing a tough road ahead. Some were looking to cash out. When are you free? I can set up a meeting with their representatives. Transferring distribution rights was a complex process, not something settled with a few words. The parent company had to approve. If your qualifications didn't meet their operational standards, they wouldn't agree. A face-to-face meeting was a mutual inspection. I'm free anytime, Leo replied. Okay, wait for my call. Grayson hung up as soon as the words were out. Shortly after he ended the call with Grayson, his phone rang again. It was Rosalind. She had clearly also heard about Leo's interest in the formula brands. Unlike Grayson, who was helping to broker a deal, she was just curious. Why? Right after Ethan Jiang and Richard Chien had signaled their confidence in domestic formula, was Leo suddenly scrambling to acquire rights for international brands. This was the first time Rosalind had called Leo since their meeting in Denver. She was clearly still a bit salty about him having dinner with Grayson. Leo was fine with the silence. Although they had some verbal agreements, it was ultimately a relationship of mutual convenience. She had helped him, and he had given her plenty of benefits in return. Hearing her question, he gave a dismissive answer. I'll probably have kids in a few years. Just planning ahead. Is that okay? Rosalind was speechless. It was obvious Leo wasn't going to tell her the truth. She pressed on. I've heard that several domestic formula brands have entered into joint ventures with foreign companies. Heartland is just the beginning. The future marketing push will be that their pastures and production facilities are all overseas. If that happens, foreign brands will have zero advantage in the domestic market. That's why so many people are choosing to sell their distribution rights now. Rosalind's meaning was clear. She thought this was a bad move. The massive upfront investment wouldn't be justified by the expected returns. If Leo didn't know about Heartland's secret, he would never have taken such a risk. But there were no ifs. Rosalind, is there anything else? If not, I've got to get back to work. Rosalind wanted to say more, but before she could, Leo had hung up. On his end, Leo was also staring at his phone, confused. He hadn't meant to hang up on her. His phone had just died. But he couldn't be bothered to explain. He went back to his room, plugged it in, and went back to watching TV with Khloe and Sophia. Not long after, Sophia's phone rang. She answered it and handed it to Leo. It's for you. Leo took it. The caller ID said Ing, but the voice was Spike's. Yo, Leo, why was your phone off? Dead battery. What's up? Director Zhang was arrested. His brother, too. His company's been shut down. All the projects he managed are being investigated from top to bottom. Spike's voice was thick with schadenfreude. Leo already knew about this. He was the one who submitted the evidence. Hearing no reaction from Leo, Spike couldn't help but laugh. Right after he went down, someone contacted me. The Old Town redevelopment project we bid on. We got it. It's Apex Construction. Would you call that a double dose of good news, or what? Leo knew how hard Hank and Spike had worked on this. He understood their excitement. The profit from this single project would be more than what Apex Construction had made in the last several years combined. And this was just the beginning. If it did a good job, more projects like this would follow. I won't bother saying good work. A new payment just came in, right? Talk to Hank. Take some of it out for bonuses. Also, from now on, you two need to take the lead on Apex's development. Leo intended for Spike to step up. He planned to hand Apex Construction over to him entirely. He only had so much energy and couldn't do everything. His success so far was entirely due to his foresight. In 10 or 20 years, when that advantage was gone, he would have to rely on people like Spike. When that time came, Leo just wanted to be a wealthy retiree. He was done managing Apex for now. If he could, he'd stop meddling in Rush Sportswear and Silver Fur Capital too. Thinking about it, Leo felt a wave of self-pity. He shook his head with a sigh. Khloe, sitting next to him hugging a cartoon pillow, turned to him. "What's wrong?" Leo leaned over and put a hand on her shoulder. The April weather in Riverbend was perfect, not too hot, not too cold. Khloe was just wearing a thin blouse at home. His hand on her shoulder could clearly feel the ridge of her bra strap. "Ah," Khloe yelped. Even Sophia, who was peeling an apple nearby, glanced over before quickly looking away, minding her own business. "You pervert," Khloe muttered, blushing. Hee, Leo grinned. It was kind of fun. He was about to do it again, but Khloe grabbed his hand and held it tight. "What were you sighing about?" Khloe asked again. Leo reached out with his free hand and squeezed her cheeks, making her lips pucker. Then he sighed dramatically. "I just think my life is so tragic." He put on a sorrowful expression. Just as Khloe was about to ask what he meant, Leo beat her to it. To have lost all motivation to strive at such a young age. Life is so boring. Khloe rolled her eyes, looking like she wanted to punch him. Khloe used this to shut him up. Sophia handed her the freshly peeled apple. Khloe took it and shoved it into Leo's mouth. "No more talking. Just eat," she said fiercely. Leo took a couple of bites, shaking his head. What kind of world is this? A man can't even speak his mind. He slid his hand from her shoulder to her back. Since the shoulder was off limits, the back was fair game. And somehow, through her shirt, with just one hand, he managed to unhook her bra. Having accomplished his mischief, he bolted. He could hear Khloe shouting behind him. "Leo, you asshole."